athleticism. More than 2,000 athletes from over 200 countries will compete in 49 events. Drawing inspiration from past memorable outings, Team Kenya is looking ahead for a remarkable feat in the forthcoming World Athletics Championship in Budapest, Hungary in Central Europe. Witness the wonders from Budapest, Hungary on 19th through to the 27th of August, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, the true sports partner.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Vijana chapakazi wenye nguvu za ziada.
My youth, uko na talent ya kusing, spoken word, kucompose jingles ama any other unexploited artistic talent. Gava through Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy na KBC sasa wame come up na project ya kupromote usanii called Studio Mashinani. Hizi ni studios ziko grassroots and they are fitted with high quality state-of-the-art equipment where you can produce quality audio and video music content for free. What's more, wanaoffer mentorship na talanta yako itakuwa promoted on KBC Channel 1 TV, Y254 na radio stations za KBC. Tembelea Studio Mashinani huko Comarox, Langata, Sauti House Mombasa, Kirwara huko Gatanga, Kitui next to Manyanyoni Chiefs Camp na Kisumu City wako hapo KBC station. Usilalie talent. This is your chance to commercialize and popularize your talent through Studio Mashinani.
And welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's now 2 minutes past 7 a.m. I hope you are doing very fine on this good Monday morning. It's time for Eye on Politics. We want to take a look at politics, what happened over the weekend, and what we should be expecting this particular week. As always, this is where we serve you hot political show in Kenya. Right about now, let me just bring in my guest who is already in studio. Deputy Governor representing the great county of Machakos. Deputy Governor, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Karibu sana. How is Machakos so far?
Machakos so nice, so good.
Yes.
Other than the challenges facing many of our citizens, which is normal for any developing country like Kenya. I've spent most of my time in that particular county throughout this last week until this morning.
Yes.
And by and large, all is well.
All is well. All right. The Devolution conference happened last week. We'll be taking a look at that, how it all went down, whether we, as the conveners, the direct implementers of this devolution, how did it go according to you? Maybe roughly before we get into more details.
That devolution conference is always good.
Yes.
Why? In my view, there is a lot of showcasing on talents on our countryside, on creativity and innovations from different counties.
Yep.
Sometimes we also share what is this we have done well and others are getting it wrong. This what is all these others are getting right and we are getting it wrong. That's why at the end of the conference you see different leaders, you see different counties, some being awarded and others being told to go and get your acts together and come back next year. Yes.
How did Machakos perform specifically?
Not so well, but you know, we cannot judge current the leadership in our counties because they were implementing agendas of others. Now the starting point is this financial year, but fairly well, very well represented by the county leadership and the executive at large. Our county assembly was also in attendance. This year we really represented a very able team, a very strong team from Machakos, and I'm sure we have learned a lot. And then we are now down to business. We are also starting the week of public participation. Soon after we took our oath of office, the governor led us through in a public participation exercise that came up with county integrated development plan. Now this year, as I urge our people to come out in large numbers, we are not doing a 5-year plan. We are now doing annual development plan. And this is very critical for our residents because the way the county works is that you go to people, you get their priorities, you get what they need, then go back and plan on how to implement that. Now, if you don't come forward and you don't come to state what you want to be done within this one financial year, what it means is you are likely somebody else will come and another group will come and present
over your
yes. So it is very critical, not only in Machakos but all the counties in our republic. Whenever you hear anything to do with the public engagement, public input, public participation, please come out in large numbers. And then state to the leadership what you think is the priority. But I also urge it is not a question of people coming to state, but you can even start the coming together as groups, coming together as residents of where you reside, and discuss the future of that particular area, so that when you are called, you are ready with your priorities and you can send a delegation to go and present.
Very well.
Yes.
All right. Let's take a quick look at what we have on the traffic situation. Very fast, before we get into the discussion, I'm still expecting Crispus Pathimba, who is a political analyst, to join us shortly. Let me take you through the traffic situation in the CBD. So far, the situation looks like the Westlands inbound and outbound looking pretty well. So if you're using that Western circuit coming into the CBD, it is your time to come into Nairobi CBD, coming back to Thika Road. Still bumper to bumper all the way starting from Muthaiga Square towards Kenya Hotali Hotel. Already a mess that is joining the Pangani bypass, heading slightly right just after Muthaiga Golf Club there, but the rest of Kiambu Road looking pretty fine. How about Mombasa Road? Very quickly, Mombasa Road, when you're coming down in and out of Mombasa Road, looking pretty fine. That is Ole Sereni coming into the towards Nyayo National Stadium, Lusaka, Bunyala Road, thereabout, all moving fine until you come into the CBD. Let's cross over to Langata Road. How does it look like? This is the situation along Langata Road, down to Nairobi Safari Walk, down to Nairobi Barracks there, Langata Barracks, I beg your pardon, Southern Bypass, down towards Wilson Airport, joining the T-Mall. Apparently, Langata Road is moving so well. So if you're using that route, you have a moment to drive. Upwards, towards Mbagathi Way, towards the Daystar University or City Mortuary, all looking good, joining Valley Road and ultimately into the CBD. So if you're using those roads, you have a time to come. Those people who are using Embakasi, Eastern Bypass, all the way from Utawala, joining Outer Ring Road, so far so good. So if you're also using that route coming into Nairobi CBD, so far so good. That is a look at the situation in Nairobi. Very quickly, let's head over to Mombasa. Good morning, Mombasa. At the Likoni Ferry, already busy because a majority of Kenyans are crossing from both sides, waiting to cross the ferry channel. Coming down to this side of Nyali Road, that is all the way from the entire Malindi Road, moving pretty fine past Jomo Kenyatta, Pirate Beach, the famous Pirate Beach, everything moving so far until you get to around Kongowea Market, where there's a bit of some traffic. But after that, joining the new Nyali Bridge, moving fine as you come into the CBD. From Changambwe, joining Jambo Village, all to Makupa, joining Makupa Causeway into the CBD, Mombasa, kila kitu iko shwari. And finally, Kisumu, good morning. So far, so good. That's what Kisumu looks like. Outbound Rabuor coming to Boy, joining that side of Molem Nyamasaria, coming into the CBD of Kisumu, kila kitu iko sawa. As you move downhill from that is we got Gardens, that is Kakamega Road, joining Kondele and ultimately into Kisumu CBD. So far so good. If you're going outbound towards the Kisumu International Airport, kila kitu iko sawa, towards Otongolo Stage and outside as you head towards Maseno, etc., etc. That is the traffic situation in our major cities across the world. Later on, I will take you through the front page of our, there you have it, of our international newspapers. That is on the BBC. And finally, I will take you through the front page of France 24. But right about now, let's still come back home and take you through the front page of our local dailies. Let me start with the front page of the Daily Nation. Stolen Dream. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Stolen Dream. The story says that devolution at 10. That is what we are taking stock on. Corruption, that is the noble vision of framers of the Constitution to decentralize services to the people, has been marred by instances of devolved graft, with billions of shillings that were intended for development diverted to line the pockets of county officials and well-connected individuals. That is what's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Stolen Dream. Now, in terms of figures, in the amount of money that has so far been released to the counties since 2013 stands at 2.98 trillion shillings, and amount spent by counties since 2013 to both the recurrent and development expenditure. Of this, 1.21 trillion shillings has been spent on personal emoluments such as salaries, wages and allowances. That is 2.9 trillion shillings, and 306.6 billion shillings so far is the amount generated by counties as their own resource revenue. Most of the counties have failed to achieve their revenue targets every year. Starting with this, DG, it's good that we've been covering the issue of devolution since it started and now post this. And these are the figures. 2.98 trillion shillings since 2013. But the big question is, what can the counties show over this?
There is a lot that the counties can show. There's a lot of development. But before I go to your question,
yes,
in your weather forecast, you always forget about Machakos. You know, Machakos was the founding capital city of this town. So kindly, you included.
I'll take a look at the traffic.
Please don't cover the cities that came the other day and forget.
That's directly. Yes, I'll consider that.
Yes, yes. Please consider. I'm just pleading you consider. Now, to the question.
Yes.
But there is a lot to show in the devolution.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, the country was discussing a major milestone in health. An hospital in northern Kenya did the first operation. Our sisters and our mothers from most part of this country, more than half of this country, yes, before devolution, could only talk about operation in Kenyatta, in Nairobi, many kilometers away from the capital. But today, that is not the case. Before devolution, many roads, many feeder roads across this country were unheard of. Today, that is not the case. Before devolution, the agriculture, we could only rely on the issues touching on agriculture from Nairobi. That is not the case today. Before devolution, people were talking about water accessibility only when you have pleaded from Nairobi. That is no longer the case. There is a lot, but they are not saying there are no challenges. We have seen many people from officials, not necessarily governors or deputy governors or county executives. We have seen so many officials from across who are tasked with the responsibility to implement devolution being charged of corruption. And this is the major eventment. So as we implement the devolution, I think we should go a long way in addressing some of these changes. I commend whoever came up with that lead story.
Yes.
Because it is now going to shift how we look at our policy as far as devolution is concerned, so that going forward, we can even change the law and ensure a certain percentage goes to what in devolution and what goes to development. Yeah. It also calls for rethink of how we structure our devolution. In my view, I think devolution was meant to devolve both power and resources. Now, this being the case, at the country level, where President Kibaki did so well in devolving both power and resources. Because you remember it was during President Kibaki's that a lot was devolved to constituency level. Like monies for roads, monies for energy, monies for these, women fund, youth fund, and even the CDF. I think once we are at county level, we should also see the same going to the ward level. It calls us to rethink and establish ward development fund so that every part of that particular county can receive development just like another part. So I think we should use the challenges that we have to tilt our legislation and policy to ensure we put devolution where it belongs.
Very good. I'm looking at the front page of the Daily Nation. Crispus Wathimba, good morning.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm told that by the time we were starting, you were on your way from Nakuru County.
Yes,
you must be under duress.
No.
Welcome to the program. You've just found us going on with the Deputy Governor here.
Nakuru City.
Yes.
Doing very well.
Karibu sana.
Trying to do the best we can.
All right.
This economy.
We are taking a look at the front page of the Daily Nation. Devolution at 10. We've been taking a look, stock, since last week, during and now this post. Briefly, some figures here. That is 2.98 trillion shillings disbursed since 2013. And now 2.9 trillion shillings has gone into spent on personal emoluments. That is on wages, bills, allowances, and 306 billion shillings. Of course, that is part of the on-source revenue. But what do you make of the conference that happened last week, now that it's all over? And now they have got a new model that will be happening by annual conference. But before that, the biggest issue was, how did it go? We saw it happening was in Gishu. Last time it was in Makueni County, and now it's rotational. But from your own perspective, I don't know whether you were there at the Devolution conference.
Well, I was there, and
how was it?
It was very exciting. I mean, achieving a 10-year milestone is not a small feat for devolution as a country. And also, one of the most important things we need to appreciate is that the 2010 constitution came barely 3 years before the devolution governments were first implemented. So therefore, the leadership that was implementing the devolution was a new government. They had no much experience about it. They were a new breed of administration. Everybody was new about this thing. So therefore, we were bound to have hitches here and there. But I believe we have come to understand our challenges. We have come to appreciate the potential devolution can deliver. But also, we have come to appreciate that devolution has truly brought development to the people. To what extent, it depends on which county you come from. To what extent, it also depends with the leadership you choose. And the other thing also we need to note is that a lot of the counties where a one-term governor or a governor serves one term, that affects the traction of development in that region. We have seen areas like now Kisumu, where the governor is serving his second time, he's able to exercise a bit more room in terms of delivery of his agenda, because on the second term he's able to push his agenda. But those who are serving their first term and they are not sure of serving another one, they're not able to deliver on the very promise that they made for Kenyans, because there is a balance of, do I get re-elected next time, or do I deliver on very painful decisions that are good for the people but the people may not appreciate?
That's a good point, and perhaps let me just ask you on that. Do you think it can be amended in such a way that a governor has 10-year full term, or I don't know what was the mind of the drafters of this constitution, because based on what you said, I see the DG saying no.
Well, in other jurisdictions, for example, in the Philippines, a president has a one term of 7 years. So therefore, once you get elected, you are sure that after 7 years, you're not seeking re-election, and you have full mandate to deliver on the promises you made. Unfortunately, in Kenya, we lose 1 year upon election, because you inherit a system that was prepared by the previous administration, and you also lose another 1 year at the end, because you have to prepare for an election. So you effectively
only 3 years.
You effectively work for 3 years, unless now you get re-elected. Then you have an opportunity to deliver maybe for another 4 years. So effectively, leadership in Kenya works very well if you get a 2-year term, but you work effectively for 7 years. So that's something we need to discuss as a country. Yes, we are a young democracy. We've just enjoyed real democracy for the last 20 years. We are now enjoying devolution for the last 10 years. We need to take stock of where we have come from and see the generation that is going to inherit this system. Are they going to an election every 4 years, or they are okay? Probably we need to one election every 7 years for the people to be able to elect their leaders.
Absolutely. Naftali Nyamongo, political analyst, karibu sana to the show.
Thank you very much.
My point is the issue of devolution. I mean, a majority of Kenyans are saying that, where was the big boss? The big boss was the Mwananchi. I mean, they are the direct beneficiaries of devolution. But do you think the common Mwananchi got their views expressed during that devolution?
Now, first and foremost, I feel happy appreciation for this opportunity. Now, in regard to the devolution conference which has concluded, it is true that Kenya has advanced. We have progressed as far as sharing and the devolution of power is concerned. Because when we enacted the Constitution of Kenya, the people of Kenya pronounced heavily as part of our provisions that we want the sovereignty of the people, that we want self-determination. And this self-determination has been depicted through devolved government. Now, you had so many
speakers
in our conference. Our leaders expressed their views, how they have progressed, their limitations, and I must confess that indeed we have a quality which outshines the usual. It is just to give ourselves enough adequate period so that we can accomplish what the framers of the Constitution of Kenya envisaged as far as devolution is concerned, because the sovereignty of the people, or the sovereign power of the people, has been already showcased by the Kenyans from the grassroots. So our leaders are there to guide and inspire the people with confidence, so that we can have a successful ending of our struggles. Thank you very much.
Based on that, did the Mwananchi get their voice expressed?
Yes and no, depending on who your leader is. But before I go there, allow me to say 3 things. One, today a government agency talked of functions still being performed by the national government to a tune of over 272 billion Kenya shillings. At my personal level, I believe that amount is higher than that. Now, I think that is also another one major challenge. But the good thing is the new administration ruling this country has committed to ensure within 60 days they do what has not been done in the last 10 years as far as devolving those functions plus resources are concerned. Number two is the tenure of the administration at the county level. Yeah. I think the voters should be given an opportunity every 5 years to ensure or whichever period, even if one is to serve for 2 or 3 years, subject that to the people. Why am I saying this? As a person who has now been who has represented people at Parliament in Nairobi and now at county level, I can tell you, if you have a good manager managing the county affairs, that county is likely to progress and the people will approve through the ballot of his or her actions. Yeah. Now, subjecting that to one single term of 8 or 7 or 5 years is to invite disaster for those who are busy looting other than engaging people in development. So in this case, I think we need to be careful, bearing in mind Kenya is a developing country where money influences a lot of what happens. Yeah. So I think we are not yet there. Maybe in the future, but for now, as long as Kenya is a developing country where the systems of governance are not that strong, and whereby any elected leader to get him or her out of the office other than election is not that easy through other legal means, I think it will be a disaster to start thinking of a single term of all these many years at the expense of a voter. Yeah. Now, to your question. Our constitution dictates that anything we do, as long as it is touching on the Kenyan citizens, be subjected to a public participation. Right. Previously, we have seen not many people prefer that. You call people somewhere, you register them, you give them a few coins here and there, and then you go and implement what you think, but attach the minutes of the meeting you called to where you wanted. Public participation dictates that you announce publicly, we will meet in these particular areas, and you announce and you mobilize through the religious organization, through the community leadership, through the media. You make sure everybody is aware, and you also state what is expected. So that it is a quality engagement where the voice of the citizens will count. But not most of the time we see that. Some people implement what they think is what people want. But I don't think that is fair. And that's why you are seeing many counties have taken off so well, while others are still grappling. Sometimes you see a county that was doing so well, you elect somebody and then or some people, but within a year that count is crumbling. That's why you are also seeing, because of this greedy, because of selfishness, you are seeing the infights across some sections of counties in this country. Other than focusing on service delivery to the people you represent, you go there to fight. To fight who is getting what, who is doing what, who is doing this, who is not doing this. And in most cases, when you get into the bottom of the fights, it boils down to issues touching on money.
But then
nothing
again,
else.
But then again, I would also ask you, Crispus, because this one also comes because of interest. I mean, during political campaigns, DG, you went to the campaigns, and a majority of people who were behind you, everyone was expecting a piece of that meat from you. Okay, mheshimiwa, sasa umefika hapo unanipatia nini? Before you knew it, 1 year is gone. I mean, it's scrambling for this position and that. But coming to that question, do we need to have, how should public participation be, Crispus? Because when you look at the situation, many a times some of the organizations will come with already formed opinion, the agenda is already set, the way he says, there is a file already, but they just subject that public participation as a formality. Then why should it be entrenched in the constitution then?
You know, public participation by its own making was an opportunity for the mwananchi, the ordinary Kenyan, to be able to present his or her position in terms of public policy or public administration. Now, one of the challenges we have in Kenya, most Kenyans, the ordinary ones, they believe any political process, they must be sweetened with some money. Just like during the campaigns, they were given money to go and appear in rallies, they also want to be given some facilitation to appear in public participation forums. So therefore, what happens is that those Kenyans who are interested in providing their opinion without being facilitated are probably the ones who appear. And for the politician who has an interest, he will facilitate a few of his people to come and make a contribution. And then what ends up is that there are selfish interests that are able to prevail because, for example, even if a civil society comes there, probably it is there to present a position because of the people who sponsor that civil society, but not Wanjiku with Mama Mboga in her business, because Mama Mboga will say, me, I'm very busy with my business. I have no time to go to do this thing unless they give me 200 shillings. So therefore, we dilute the whole process of public participation because money comes before the interest that we have for ourselves. So therefore, we need to have an awareness of Kenyans understanding that public participation is the only opportunity you have to be able to correct the ills that you may have made, for example, in electing the wrong leader who made the wrong promises. If you fail to make yourself available for this process, then you are bound to suffer. For example, if you're running a business, Mama Mboga business, and they're supposed to increase the rates for the fees you're supposed to pay, if you don't show up and voice your concerns, then you are the ones who are going to suffer. Because even if the MCA comes and gives you 200 shillings, when you take that 200 shillings, you will have no voice there in that forum. It is his voice that
your voice already controlled.
So we have a challenge as a country of people understanding that your public participation does not end at the elections, at the ballot paper. It starts there. The moment you elect that leader, you must continue checking him or her until the end of his 5-year term.
Very well. Nyamongo, should we have technocrats or politicians managing the counties? That's based on what the DG said, that if you have a good manager in a county, then that county is most likely to prosper, depending on that. Let me take a break, and when we come back, we are going to get more on that, Nyamongo. And the Deputy Governor also said that I should take a look at the traffic in Machakos. I promise to do that when we come back. I promise to come back. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more.
Live from Broadcasting House, Nairobi, Kenya. This is KBC English Service.
Welcome to Beat Time Show, the very best of the 80s and 90s. Be John Karani, JK.
Timeless music hits across the decades.
This is the place to be after you've had a tough day. Here we celebrate love and life.
Just watch. The sound of KBC English Service.
I'm your host Caroline Wangishi, Carol Gatata Moshero.
My name is Geoffrey Mongai B.
News, information and entertainment. KBC English Service, Kenya's official national radio.
Ingo FM fans in Kakamega, are you ready? Ingo FM and Y254 have organized a Meet the Fans tour on 25th and 26th August 2023. On Friday, 25th August, join us at Butere Boys High School, where the Baraza Foundation has organized sports activities including a football match pitting Kakamega Homeboys versus Butere combined. In the evening, join us as we witness the crowning of Mr. and Miss Butere live from Charlie 037 Resort. These events will be covered by Y254 and Ingo FM. On Saturday, 26th August, our team shall visit Noah Yale Children's Home, where we shall donate dignity packs. And the climax of our Kakamega tour will be the launch of Ingo FM Mashabi Club at Bondeni Primary School. Don't miss out. All are welcome.
Welcome back. Now, let me take you through the front page of the day. Standard here. Standard newspaper says rejected degrees. That is on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Rejected degrees. New generation of students have totally rejected certain courses offered in public and private universities, despite government clarifying that the programs are vital for Kenyans' development. According to the figures here, we have got 20,151 bachelors of education arts courses that attracted the highest number of applicants, 9,331 number of students who chose Bachelor of Education, and 5,567 number of students who want to study Bachelor of Arts, the third most popular course. And here we have 104 number of academic programs that attracted only 10 students each. And lastly, last but not least, 7 students who chose to study Bachelor of Science in Climate Change. 7. And lastly, 18, the number of degrees courses that attracted only 1 student each during the recent placement to universities. That is on the front page of the Standard. And finally, before I get into that, on the front page, something quite related to this. Are education officials trading on girls' periods? That is on the front page of the Star. Are education officials trading on girls' periods? Medics warn that poor quality could cause infection, skin irritation, and worsen stigma. There is an audit which reveals that pads for poor quality could easily fall off. That is a story that is fleshed out there for you in the inner pages here on page 4 and 5. It's a bill that has been sponsored by nominated Senator Gloria Oroba. It's a complete pullout on page 4 and page 5, something that has attracted a lot of debate across the country, having in mind that it's one of the issues that creates stigma among the young girls going to school. But let me come back to the issue of rejected degrees. It's quite saddening, gentlemen, that at this particular point, but before I get into that, Nyamonga, I ask you a question. Should we have technocrats or politicians running our respective counties? That is based on what the DG said, that if you have a good manager, then most counties are most likely to prosper.
Yeah, let me agree that if you have a good manager, a good manager may be a politician or a technocrat. So we look at the values, we look at the qualities, positive or negative, which render this person desirable or valuable in that office. And we cannot look at our values without looking at that thinking of the Constitution in regard to a state officer or a public officer. Every public officer or state officer has that social force that binds them for the courses of action demanded by that force. So we need accountability from any individual, either a politician or a technocrat. It's not about the definitions. It is about that quality in a person. Now, when you see the national values and the principles of governance, these are the bare minimums which compose our nation. together with the political parties. Now, the national values and the principle of governance bind all state organs, state officers, public officers, and all persons whenever any of them applies or interprets this constitution. Now, the thinking of the framers of the constitution in regard to a state officer was about competence, number one. Number two was about personal integrity. Number three was about suitability. Number four was about these people must be able to have a judgment based on observable phenomena and uninfluenced by emotions and personal prejudices. In his own words, and you will kindly allow me to quote the late, the Honorable Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. If we are to go forward, we must go back and rediscover these precious values. That all reality hinges on moral foundation, and that all reality has a spiritual control, full stop and unquote. Now, what we need from our leaders is that condition to be free, that freedom to act at will, not under compulsion or restraint. We need people who express themselves so that we can have devolution and access to services to our people. We don't need to define ourselves by the by big titles. We only need to focus on our mandate.
Who should we focus more on this? The freedom, the governors, the managers, or the monarchy?
The governors. A governor is a leader. A leader is any person who is disposed to lead or inspire others. So this governor or this manager in either the county or the national government must possess those qualities, desirable qualities, especially for the thing specified. And this thing is that of
And that becomes a big issue, DG, because when you talk of freedom, he's raised a very salient point there. The freedom to operate and to actually implement the policies of a county and your manifesto during campaigns. But do you really find that freedom to operate? Because sometimes you feel that your hands are tied from either because of certain policies of a county, certain ideologies from your people, certain beliefs and demands from either national government or any other arm of government, or even some of the interested parties in your area.
First and foremost, Sir Michael Porter said fish stings first from the head.
I know that better because I come from I know that better.
Number two, the late Mandela said, where you stand depends largely on where you sat. It is more of a leadership issue because in most of the counties, if not whole, you need to have someone who understands corporate governance, who respects institutions. The last time I checked, governments around the world, our counties and government agencies included, you don't speak the way like now we are discussing issues here. But if you want to put you want to direct an officer to do something, as long as it's something that is in the policies, that is something that is law, you put a note, either an internal memo or even a letter for that matter. When you find some leaders in the name of our either deputy governors or governors who operate using their aides' phone numbers and not theirs, you know that is not somebody who is out to do anything good. That is a criminal, I can tell you. And see when anybody, and read across the world, anybody who operated like that, these are people who are likely, whose agenda is totally different. To stick to your question, because I'm also trying to contribute in a wide way, is that you do not have to be, personally, I believe you do not have to be a doctor to lead an hospital, but you need to be a good leader. To create an enabling environment, not for hero worshipping, but to enable the people you have selected and approved by the county assemblies, if it is the case of county governments, you give them a room, an environment to operate well, efficiently and effectively. Now, if you don't do that and you are micromanaging every now and then, making calls there, you do not know what the directives you gave yesterday and today and afternoon, then you are causing chaos. So in this case, it is more of a leadership issue than anything else. Because if in the issue of devolution in Kenya, county governors, they are heading all the departments, almost close to 10 of them, ranging from energy, roads, another one dealing on health. So if you demand this particular person must be an engineer, then an engineer cannot run an hospital. But what you need is leadership skills, somebody who understands corporate governance, somebody who is going to ensure there is a framework for each department to thrive. And I also appreciate these departments so that, at the end of the day, it is service to the people of that particular county.
Christmas Otimbo is an engineer.
Yes.
No pun intended. That an engineer cannot run a hospital. You can, I know.
We can. I think
in a good way. He tried to mean it that competence is what matters.
Yes.
I mean, when you look at this situation, the issue of governance and politics, it's a thin line. It's a thin line because the seat of a county boss is a political seat. But then how do you distinguish that? The moment you get into that office and now service delivery. So how do you distinguish them a little bit for the sake of service delivery?
Now, one of the biggest challenges we have as a society and any other society in the world, you find that when it comes to determining a good leader, you can only determine them by the words they speak. So leaders who inspire through their words,
they do the service
you
delivery.
understand? And then this person goes to office, then you give him an opportunity to do what he spoke about. And then now you're able to know whatever he said is what he's able to do. And there are those who come to office speaking very well, but they cannot do. So it becomes a challenge. And now the electorate get into despair. We elected this person, he said all this, but now he's not able to implement because probably he's not a great doer. So we have a challenge in terms of the electoral process. How able is it in terms of ciphering the very best of our leadership? So that by the time we say out of 100 candidates, we have come up with 5, and these 5 are the most promising in terms of speaking, inspiring the people, and even doing, so that when we present these 5 to the electoral, then they will have made the best choice among the crowded field. But when you come to an election, you find it is most of the time the people who make the most noise who get elected and pour or splash a lot of money that they get elected. But when these people get to office, they have either two things: continue talking, doing very little, or finding ways to recover the money that they spent in an election. Very few leaders are able to really come and execute the mandate unless they got into office with a lot of political support. For example, the ticket that they came with gave them a lot of support, despite maybe the community that they were seeking election from was not really looking forward to electing them. A good example is Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. This is a person, the ODM party made sure he is elected as governor, and you can see the kind of work he's doing. So we also need the political parties to take some opportunity time in terms of sieving the type of leaders that they present in terms of candidates, so that the Kenyan voter is able just to choose among the best, not just to choose among anything, so that we don't choose a rotten head all the time, because at the end of the day we will suffer.
But again, political parties, Nyamongo, political parties can support you to the end, but it also boils down with the performance of an individual. If you are elected based on your support from the political parties, you know, as your principles, your values as a leader, but it also boils down to an individual with the kind of manifesto that you give people. Deputy Governor is not, as you said, is not one of the loudest persons I know, but he's in office.
Yes, that.
But it boils down to an individual. Nyamongo.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, allow me to speak with an honest and sincere feeling. When you talk of a governor or a deputy governor or another political post, these responsibility do not qualify to be political seats. These are public trusts. When you talk of a public trust, it means this is a trust created for the purposes of either educational, religious, charitable, and scientific purposes. So this is public trust from any elective post must result in being consistent with the objects and the purposes of the Constitution, number one. Number two, they must demonstrate respect for the people.
Yes.
Number three, they must bring honor to the office and the dignity to the nation. And number four, they must have that public confidence in the integrity of the office. This is now what we call responsibility of a state officer, that governor. He must have that ability to serve, not to rule. And this is now is what we call discipline, that well behavior in the public office. Now, when you call it a political seat, then you change the meaning. You call it a public trust. Any leader must have that public trust from the people. The people elected them. It had that connectivity, the high affinity. The problem with Kenya is that we easily get agitated. We easily lose our self-possession. We need to have that steadiness of mind under stress, because these are the leaders whom we voted for. So we needed to give them ample time to calm down and give us their policies, to administer to us, to execute their functions and perform their duties. This must happen when we have patience in ourselves, when we have that trust and confidence in these leaders, because then we will be now in a position of sitting and watching what we did through our representatives, because these are our representatives. In fact, they are representing our views and our opinions. So we must be open and genuine, while marked by a firm and humorless belief in the validity of our opinions, which are now expressed by our leaders.
Yes.
That is now what we call sovereignty.
You know, you've raised a very good point, because the outcome of a general, the outcome of a county is as good as the leaders that we elect. And that's common sense. When we elect, the late president said that siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. So it all goes back to us as citizens. There is a very important point that was raised during that particular conference, that some of the functions will now start slowly getting into the counties. Some of them which were still held, to some percentage by the national government, will now move to the counties. I don't know how you gentlemen received that news.
Definitely positively, because that is something that was supposed to have been done 10 years ago. But now, it is being done now. Secondly, somewhere I read that show me your friends and I will tell you who you are. I'm sure framers of our constitution, when they thought of devolution, they were thinking of an entity that will now become a center of innovation, center of transformation. But it is unfortunate, a few of our counties have been turned by leaders, cartels, and corrupt fellows to be the opposite of what is expected in our constitution. And I think all this is because maybe some people don't understand the dictates of our constitution. Chapter 6 of our constitution is a reference point. And we need to be, I'm sure a panelist here has talked of public trust in the public offices. Yeah. You know, when you go there to make money, when you go there to suppress, and allow me, because it is in public knowledge, to quote something that is known to Kenyans. Look at how the current administration in this country came to the office. For the first time, after almost 60 years after independence, we saw security agents throw tear gas canisters into a church, a worship place. And Kenyans stood to say that there is God who dictates what is going to happen. Now, when we have this kind of acts, even some being devolved to our counties, what are we doing? Are you telling me either that particular deputy governor or governor really understands what is expected of him or her? So in this era, I think going forward, we continue doing the way we are doing, because we are educating masses to interrogate when they go to a ballot box. First and foremost, no, yesterday Mwangangi might have given you 1,000 or this morning to influence you on where to vote. But go there and vote with your conscience, because that will dictate another 5 years, either of progress and development or the opposite of that. Okay? Absolutely. So in this case, I was very delighted when I heard that within 60 days, and from none other than the chief executive of this country, we are going, and publicly, not a policy that was issued, himself talking in the public, saying within 60 days, the national government will do what it is supposed to do to ensure all the counties have what they are supposed to be having, and accompanied by resources. That is very important. And at the same time, I can tell you, I think the pronouncements by our head of state are going to put so many county chiefs into problems if they are not careful. What do you mean? You know one thing? Yes. You could go to any particular, you could go to Mombasa or any county. Let me not use a specific county. You can go to county and you find in that particular county, it is like health, for example. Health is almost collapsing. Why? There are no drugs. Medics are not motivated to work. Nobody to direct what is supposed to be done. And yet, the national government is saying, we gave all the monies. So the people start asking themselves some questions. How comes we do not have water? We do not have, we are lacking healthcare systems. Yet, these people have received the whatever they are supposed to receive. They have been collecting revenue from us. So in this case, going forward, the pronouncements by the national government are going to going to the next election. So many people will be enlightened, and many will be put to where they belong.
I'm just curious, because perhaps could just beam some light, Wathimba, because you are there, you got the first-hand info. Some of these functions that we develop, maybe some of them, and how is it going to affect the ultimate service delivery after the 10 years that we are moving towards now?
Well, as enshrined in the Schedule 14, the Schedule 2 of the Constitution, there are some 14 functions that are already devolved. So there are another around 10 of them that are supposed to be devolved, all in the same areas of agriculture, education, healthcare, and all that. Mining, trade and industry, those kind of things. So we are looking forward to a more responsibility to the governors and the county executive administration, the CECs. So therefore, what you're going to see is that more responsibility be required from the leadership of the executive leadership of the county in terms of executing the vision of the Kenya Kwanza administration. That is the whole picture. That whatever Kenya Kwanza has promised over the next 10 years, the county governments are going to be the biggest bearer of that responsibility. And therefore, if they don't have the proper governance structures, the Kenya Kwanza plan will have some serious challenges. And therefore, it is important that we now start establishing proper governance structures. And the case of Wasignishu, where people lost money, should be a classic example for those who may want to attempt to abuse power, not to do so. One of the challenges we have had in this devolution system is that we have not seen any successful prosecution of anyone, despite the various abuses that we have seen of public office. The moment we'll see one successful prosecution, that might deter those who want to abuse. But as more devolved function comes, it means more resources will come. Okay? It may not mean many people will be recruited, because whoever is being employed by the national government will probably be taken to the county government. That presents another challenge, because county administration, they were elected to reward, and probably supposed to reward some people with jobs. But now you're being told you can't reward your friends. You must inherit those who are in the national government to come and work with you. That may present a challenge, because we have seen now we have a huge wage bill that the county governments keep carrying year after year because of this patronage that they have to keep rewarding. Because I was elected, I promised some people jobs, now I have to give them job. But there are people who are already in office who can be able to do the same job. So those are some of the challenges that I am seeing, where the issue of managing human resource might be a big problem as far as the devolution is concerned.
Yabongo, I don't know why the guillotine falls on you. Anytime I come to you, we have to take a break. It's 8 a.m. on the dot. It's a good point for us to take a very short break. And when we come back, we're still going to continue this discussion. I'll give you the last word on this. And then, gentlemen, the Bipartisan talks begins today at around 10 a.m. at the Bomas of Kenya. The technical team had their point. They'll sit down a whole week to iron out some of the issues that they are going to discuss moving forward. What is it going to look like shortly when we come back after this break? Stay with us.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Vijana chapakazi wenye nguvu za ziada.
My youth, uko na talent ya kusing, spoken word, kucompose jingles ama any other unexploited artistic talent. Gava through Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy na KBC sasa wame come up na project ya kupromote usanii called Studio Mashinani. Hizi ni studios ziko grassroots and they are fitted with high quality state-of-the-art equipment where you can produce quality audio and video music content for free. What's more, wanaoffer mentorship na talanta yako itakuwa promoted on KBC Channel 1 TV, Y254 na radio stations za KBC. Tembelea studio mashinani huko Comarox, Lang'ata, Sauti House Mombasa, Kirwara huko Gatanga, Kitui next to Manyanyoni Chiefs Camp na Kisumu City wako hapo KBC station. Usilalie talent. This is your chance to commercialize and popularize your talent through studio mashinani.
Come back. We have Nyamogo in studio, Crispus Wathimba, engineer, political analyst, and Francis Mongangi, legislator and deputy governor representing the good people of Machakos County. Now, a quick update here that we have got at 9 a.m. we'll be having a state visit by His Excellency Joko Widodo, who is the president of Indonesia, who will be at State House in Nairobi for an official visit and will be received by President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi. I repeat that there will be a state visit by His Excellency Joko Widodo, who is the President of Indonesia, at 9 a.m. and that will be happening at State House in Nairobi. Once we're ready with that, we'll give you that live feed from the capital city here. Back to our discussion. Again, back to you. We took a break and now coming back to you. I want you to give me an overview of basically what should be happening. Behind the scenes, we're talking about the issue of it's something like a continuous wheel. The whole level of devolution must start from some point and ends at some point, but it has to go back to the beginning point. Are we realizing that?
To some great extent, yes. Because you say you need to look at Kenya now with 10 years since devolution began. And the way I see things, we are progressing, we are advancing, we are like a baby who is crawling. At some given point in time, we will now be on our feet. So as far as devolution is concerned, governance or the devolved government cannot work efficiently without the backing or the support of the national government. And the national government cannot work efficiently without the support of the devolution. This is the interrelatedness which we have as far as our governance is concerned. Now, the president ought to discuss and consult the governance, and the governance also ought to consult the executive. This is in this way then we will have objectivity and impartiality, and we will bring now factors, resources to drive our economy. So you cannot alienate one arm, and you cannot run away with the other. We have a team. We have a one body. Kenya is one body. Apostle Paul speaks that the body is one, but the functions are many. When one part brings glory to the body, the whole body rejoices. And when one part groans, the whole body suffers. Therefore, and just like in the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And whatever affects one in a major way affects all in a minor way. Full stop and unquote. So we need to consider ourselves. We need to have respect for our brothers, our sisters. We need to listen to one another. We need to have that sincere, that honest and sincere opening, our remarks, our relationship, how to deal with the vulnerable in the society. That acceptance, patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power. That is what we need. All of us have inherent dignity and the right to have that dignity protected and respected. No one wants to be degraded. So if we accept ourselves, Kenyans together, working with one goal, to devolve our services and bring forth that what sovereignty of the people or devolution is all about, then Kenya in the next 20 years or 50 years will be a developed state.
That brings me to my topic of today, that devolution and three-tier government. It's quite open that so far we've made progress. Let's just be honest, we've made progress as a nation. 10 years from where we were 2013, we are in 2023, we have made progress. We all agree with that. In my own county, I can see some progress. In Machakos, some progress is there. Nakuru County is working, and Crispus, you have a new responsibility. You tell us that later on, how devolution is going to work on that. But DG, how does devolution and three-tier levels government now should now work hand in hand? If at all it never happened in the last 10 years, how should they now work hand in hand so that after 10 years, God willing, we will sit down and say, this is where we were 10 years ago, and here now, where we are 20 years later. Go ahead.
In 1974, Richard Milhouse Nixon, while resigning as a president of the United States of America, said the following, and I quote, a CEO of an organization should not, in case of any failure, should not blame the juniors who exceeded either their mandate or their duties. And from that, he resigned because he took responsibility of what happened then. The levels of the government, that is the central government and the counties, should work well. I will tell you something that happened, and that's something that is making that happen. Upon assumption of office, there was a directive that the national government officials at our counties should work closely with the county government. That is happening so effectively, seamlessly, and efficiently.
Yes.
That is something that, because whether you are being served by the national government or the county government, you are the same voter. There is no need of looking like we are enemies or competing. So that is a credit I give to the current government, because the county commissioner and the county governor, when they are working well, and even the security chiefs and other national government heads at the county level, you are able to discuss, understand, discuss even policies of what they are getting from the public, what the county is getting from the public, what each arm is doing, and you find we are moving forward as one. That was not the case before. That is something that's hindered development at the county level. Now that is a challenge which has since been addressed. To go to any county, any county in this republic, and you will find people are working well. You remember the case of, for example, Mombasa. At one time, it was like the county commissioner there was the governor and was everything. And he had a backing of the national government. You know, you look at this and you wonder, how did it happen? Here you have people who have fought for their leader, and you have also somebody seated in Nairobi and imposing a leader onto the people. That has since been addressed, and people respect each other.
Yes.
We also need to look at the people in office. Since Kenyans have spoken by electing members of the county assemblies, by electing a deputy governor, by electing a governor, by electing all those leaders, including the head of state. I think we should be taken maybe for a refresher course every now and then. There should be a requirement somewhere to remind us we are not in this county, we are not in these positions of leadership to enrich ourselves, but to go to the public, get the leaders have listened to that. You see some of the things happening in this county, and by the way, I'm a scholar. Other than being who I am at the county level, I spend a lot of my time in the books and in class, and then I can tell you. You read some of the things happening in some counties. You also come into experience with some leaders, and you look at, you just wonder, where does this one came from? How did you make it to this? Or it is the question of huge sums of money, you buy your way to leadership, and then you don't know what to do with it. And that is what is hailing most of the developing countries around the world. Why? You have somewhere, and there's something engineer here said, which is very critical, and actually I'm not sure he knew, he thought through that point. He said, the main challenge that is affecting devolution is sometimes interested groups. You remember he said something like even civil society at a certain level, they go to represent the certain interests, especially financiers. I think it is him who said so. You know, the issue of interests in our politics is also another issue we need to address. So in this case, the first thing is for the leaders to work as a team. Teamwork is very important. Do you
criticize yourself? Do you critique yourself anytime you are in a caucus as the deputy governors? Because there's that point you've raised that there's some leaders who either they don't understand their roles properly, or they just feel comfortable. Now that we are in office, we are here, we can never be questioned because we have got security of tenure, and here we are now. Do you critique yourself anytime you are in a caucus as deputy governors, as leaders? Do you?
We discuss a lot, but you know the structure of our constitution and the structure of devolution, there is nothing a deputy governor can do. We just talk of deputy governor, but when it comes to operation,
you depend on your bosses.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I've seen, even I've tried to do a thorough research on why all these conflicts at our county, which are hindering development, which are hindering services to the public. You'll find it is the question of the trust we were talking about.
I like that.
It is the question. It is the question. You know, it is a question of people who sat down, agreed on something, but once they are in the office, others come in and try to usurp all that and trash whatever had been agreed and all this. You find at the end of everything, somebody feels this one is a threat, so I have to deal with her or him before that time comes. And without realizing, as much as you are trying to undermine the office of the governor, the office of the deputy governor, irrespective of how you look at it, this is somebody with followers. The war now starts down there, upwards. And by the time you people, you realize with your wars, the time has gone, nothing you have done, people have lost trust in you, and come the election, you are placed where you belong.
DJ, I love to keep that for a different debate, because that's a debate on its own. I mean, you can imagine how deep it can get, because deputy governors have complained over the years. They don't have quite distinct roles as far as the offices are concerned, and whatever they do is under the mercy of their bosses. Gentlemen, I want us to come to a close to this on this topic, but I want to give you 1 second each, Crispus and Nyamongo, so that we can finalize. What do you make of this? 10 years later, in terms of governance, scale of 1 to 10, based on what happened last week?
Well, I think I'll give them 50% success rate so far. The only thing we need to just address is this perennial kicking out of certain leaders. You find somebody is not able to finish their responsibility because of just some flimsy political battles that the deputy governor has mentioned right here, where people disagree and they are thrown out even before they finish their work, yet they were very good leaders. That touches on MCAs, governors, and senators. Kenyans need to allow leaders to be able to develop their counties with enough time, not just planning to kick them out every 5 years. Yes.
A scale of 1 to 10, with reference to, space to operate. The DJ has raised that, and I promise I'll have another discussion set for a different date so that we can discuss that moving forward, 10 years of devolution. Your assessment 10 years later?
Yeah, I will give them 4 out of 10.
That is so mean.
I know why. I know why.
Why you mean to us?
Do you know why? I give them 4 because you see the violence, you see the retaliation, you see that somatic sensation of some acute discomfort everywhere, the 47 counties.
Yeah.
So unless then they desist from violence, unless they desist from this counter attack, returning like for like, especially evil for evil, that is the only way now they will now qualify to 5 or 6. But at the moment, it is 4 out of 10.
DG, you have a lot of work to do.
No, I think
as Devolution needs to have a lot of work to do. Gentlemen, I want us to flip pages, and thank you so much for contribution about that, because that was just a spotlight and a check on what really happened last week at the Devolution conference. It's just important to have an overview of what really happened, and we need to ask ourselves as a nation how we can even make it better moving in the next 10 years. Now, all of us are products of education. We are here because of a teacher, because we went to school. But the issue of rejected degrees, that is your request that we need to discuss about it. We need to talk about this. That's new generation of students have totally rejected certain courses offered in public and private universities, despite government clarifying that the programs are as vital for Kenya's development. Some figures here. 20,000 went for the Bachelor of Arts, that's education. 9,331. Number of students who chose Bachelor of Education, Science, and of course we have got 5,567 number of students who want to study Bachelor of Arts, the 3rd most popular courses. So where I'm not seeing engineering here, engineer. You are nowhere to be seen. It's so hard to tackle.
Well, one of the things that affected this selection is the fact of the funding model that the government presented. That kind of confused many people. And when the figures were presented in terms of the cost of the course, some of these courses appeared the most affordable, and therefore they attracted the hugest numbers.
Yeah.
As you look at engineering, medicine, architecture, the figures were very high, 600,000, 500,000, which are numbers that scared most people to apply. In as much as the government promised to provide scholarship and loans, how to interpret that number was a big challenge to many Kenyans, and that contributed to the discouragement that many people expressed.
It was supposed to be a fee per course.
It was a fee. You see, for example, they were saying 600,000 for a certain course.
Yes.
Then the government will say, we'll give you 50% scholarship. So 300 is covered. Then they say, we'll give you 43% in terms of help loan. So we have 290 something covered. Then you as a parent, you provide 7%. But now, how sure are you that you'll qualify in that kind of a metrics in terms of contribution for fees? So most people played safe, and they went for the courses which are much cheaper, which were ranging 130, 170, 180. That's where most people played in terms of applying for the courses.
But when you look at it generally, Nyamongo, when you look at the general outlook now, we have got some other courses. I mean, we have tons and tons of courses that could be done. How does that really affect the education system? Because certain colleges, or even TVET or mid-level colleges will not have students. Like in this case, only 7 students who chose to study Bachelor of Science and Climate Change. Yeah. Only 7. So you can imagine the number of universities, colleges across the country which will not even have a single admission.
The loophole is in the 844 system. Yeah. The 844 system is a frustrating. Where you find, I'm explaining. You find in the 844 system a student or a pupil who has completed their KCSE. They are admitted to the university. If maybe they had an A-, an A plane, or a B+ and above, you get the government admitting these students to any faculty without consultation. So because of lack of funds from these families, they have no option other than to join that faculty.
Yes.
And if you join a faculty which you don't have passion at, then it's like a waste. So the 844 system is a waste. It does not have the moral and the intellectual advancement for our children. So unless then we now begin about thinking on how to furnish and nourish and protect and nurture the curriculum in the CBC. But with the 844 system, we will be experiencing such things.
Yeah. Did you have a university in your county? One or two?
There are around three.
Three universities.
And maybe I think a fourth one is on. Yes, I think.
The one that was launched in Konza.
Actually, there are three, but the fourth one is they are about to open. Yes, the one that was recently commissioned by the head of state at Konza.
Yes.
Open University of Kenya. There is Machakos University. There is St. Paul's University, and Mount Kenya are also opening. And then there is a Scott University. So we have several institutions of higher learning within Machakos.
You have a lot of work to do, because when you look at these numbers, then you'd be wondering the number of students will be absorbed in those institutions. You are lucky enough that in your country you have got almost 4 universities.
Yes.
That's a huge number as compared to other counties which do not even have even a single university. But when you look at these numbers, what do you make of it? We are all products of education, and certain faculties do not even have a single admission. So where do they go?
I will say the following. Before I come to that point, there is no nation, there is no country that has transformed without putting education at the center.
I agree.
At independence, the founding father of this country, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, talked of 3 issues which were supposed to be dealt with. And one of them is education. It's unfortunate we did not fix that time. We gave a loan to South Korea then to start off. And we also gave them our policy paper that we had then. Today, Kenya and South Korea are a little bit apart, but we will catch up with them. Now, we must as a country, and I'm saying must, the word is must, we must deal with the issue of quality education for anyone who wants to access education. We must make it accessible, and we also need to do thorough civic education. And finally, I think there are so many thousands, if not millions, of Kenyans who are out there. They are educated and they have got nothing to do. In fact, to a level of even masters, and to an extent, very qualified people, engineers, lawyers, they are just out there doing nothing. So this amounts to discouragement to education, but we need not to give up. And that's why first I thank you most sincerely for the opening topic that we have had in Devolution, because that is where creativity, innovation, and anything that business incubation that might grow to become a multinational is supposed to be focused on at that county level. And finally, I think the way we finance education in this country, it has to be a way. In my view, if you do your education up to bachelor's level, I think from there we should be having a system in place that will ensure people learn with a lot of business. We need to make our basic education very much almost free and encourage, make it almost mandatory for every Kenyan to access that particular education. So the way we finance our education also matters a lot. It is something that calls for a policy change, and the reforms in education are highly welcome. But that reforms must be geared into making every Kenyan being able to access education anywhere he or she wants.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jamongo, when you look at the whole structure, because at the end of the day, it's a policy that the government is going to implement at the end of it. But look at it holistically. Education is going to depend on the number of courses that are there. But you don't have students applying for them. It's courses versus the cost. So what will happen to all these other courses? Will these universities now start saying that because we are not going to... In other words, what's going to be the ripple effect? You know, because you would imagine a university offering X number of faculties, and then out of maybe 10 or 12, only 6 are active. So you can imagine the ripple effect. The lecturers will not get jobs, you know, the assistant professors, and, you know, you look at that. So what's going to happen next?
In fact, we already see the impact, because some of the lecturers are complaining. Some of the staff, the subordinate staff, because when you look at the education, you don't eye only on the curriculum. You consider other factors, because students need skills and expertise. Apart from skills and expertise, students need economic and social rights. They need water, they need food, they need infrastructure, they need sanitation, they need health care. So with all these factors, then unless we address the Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights now goes into the education system. If we don't address our Bill of Rights in that framework, the underlying structure laid down by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, then we will miss the point, and we will have our education system collapsing. But it's not going to collapse, because already we have a remedy by the CPC. The CPC is a game changer.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you look at this, that public universities in a sport for introducing courses that cannot attract students, that is quite alarming. And then again, some of the shunned courses are considered critical for national development. You know, the courses we call the engineering, medicine, law, etc., etc. And there is a graph here which completely explains what this really happens. Now, out of all the students, 454 students who scored A will going to take medicine. But is that the total number that we need? The question, number one. Number two, so what happens to other courses? I've not seen, out of this, I've not seen civil engineering, I've not seen other students taking, I mean, it's just a majority, the biggest number here is Bachelor of Arts Education. It's about the cost.
Just as I said, a lot of the people who apply this time around, they looked at the cost. If I don't get the government loan, if I don't get the scholarship, what will happen to my chances of getting a university degree? So they were playing safe, and they went for the courses where the price was as affordable as possible. Now, the problem we are also having as a country is, remember, initially, most of the universities were kind of specialized in one way or another. You go to JKUAT, they would specialize in technology, in agriculture and engineering. You go to Egerton, they would focus on the agriculture and anything to do in that ecosystem.
Yes.
You come to Nairobi, there was engineering, there was medicine, there was architecture and all that. KU was more into art and all that. Now you find at Jomo Kenyatta University, they are teaching law, and they may not be able to attract the numbers that they desire to be able to teach that course because of the issue of funding. They started attracting these courses so that they could generate money to be able to even fund the whole infrastructure of the university. So what we need to do as a country, the same way we are greatly investing in terms of funding basic education and secondary education, we also need to put more money in this university and allow them to continue in their specialist practice so that they can give the best and quality education. Once we are able to achieve that, then the quality we produce will be able to return an investment to us as a country. But right now we are producing people who are not be able to attract the kind of jobs that the market requires. We're just producing people with degrees, but when they come to the workplace, we as employers are not able even to employ them because they don't have the competence and skills we require. If they had gone to a specialist university, then you would find that university producing the best quality that the market is able to attract and the market is able to pay for, and that payment that the reward those students get in terms of employment, then they can be able to contribute greatly to the economy of this country. So we cannot continue producing cheap and expect that cheap to pay back itself.
All right. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we are still going to continue this. But DG requested, as we go for a break, DG requested that I take a look at the traffic situation in Machakos County. In Machakos, DG, Machakos iko sawa. When you start all the way from, yes, this is it Chumvi or Kyumvi? Chumvi.
Yes.
That is the junction headed towards the Chumvi Machakos Road. Hii place inakwanga fiti, by the way. As you pass A&L there, there's NTSA vehicle inspection. All of that particular section looking okay until you get into Machakos town. Around that Machakos level 5, there's a bit of some traffic because of when you join the roundabout around Naivas and Ngei Road. That's where the problem is, a bit of that. But so far so good. And heading towards Makutano Kitui Road, kila kitu ni nyue. In fact, this one, you can, watu wa Mathiri wanasema you can have avocado on the road and then slide until Kitui. So DG, so far, so good. I think we should go to Machakos after this. Crispus, what do you think? Definitely. We should. Express highway. Yeah, express highway. DG,
30 minutes to be there.
we need to go to Machakos after this. How about Nakuru? Another request from Crispus himself. Yes. Nakuru iko sawa. Let me just save that. We'll talk on that when we come back after this break. Okay, gentlemen, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be having another link from the Kenya Aviation Authority. They're having their AFI week, that is Indian Ocean and Africa Aviation Week, that is happening here, and the president will be presiding over that function. But for now, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us.
Yes, Massive and Crew, if you love reggae and you're a reggae head, you know the place to be each and every Wednesday.
You gotta show me there's a future in this. You make me stay when I should not. Are you so strong or is the weakness in me? Why do you come here?
Yeah, remember this is where radio meets TV.
Every Monday evening, we take you back where the action happened live. We let you know what you missed, even if you were present.
And our goal is to continue supporting our own.
From the latest celebrity buzz,
fashion,
music,
and all manner of youth talents,
the Grapevine cameras rove all week to bring you the latest in the enormous entertainment scene.
Watch Grapevine every Monday at 10 p.m. and the rerun on Tuesday at 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1, baby.
Engage us on Facebook and Twitter, hashtag Grapevine on KBC. Let us know what is happening in your area code, because you know what they say, if you did not see it on Grapevine,
then it most probably never happened. Bah!
Ain't nobody gotta tell you what you gotta do.
Welcome back. And we are still continuing the discussion here on Iron Politics. I got Naftali Nyamongo, who is a political analyst, engineer, Crispus Wathimba, who will give us his next title of being an engineer, and Deputy Governor representing the great people of Machakos, Francis Mwangangi. Gentlemen, we have something happening today at the Bomas of Kenya. The bipartisan talks will start the discussion in the next 2 hours or so. The technical teams had to sit down the whole of last week to iron out the issues that they really wanted to be part of their point of reference. And I don't know what you make of this. Let me start with you, DG. They had their technical teams iron out their issues, their terms of reference. So are we good to go now?
Yes, and I want also to say it is good we put our country first in all these discussions. I'm on record saying in the wisdom of those who set up those two committees, they had this country at heart, because there was no way the current administration could focus on developing this country when the same Kenyans are out in the streets. Now that we have that committee there, I think I will be forging for strengthening further devolution as the technical committee tries to do to tighten up here and there. I think as much as we are focusing on national issues, we also focus on strengthening devolution. And how do we do that? Yeah. Because that has been the center of discussion this morning. In my view, we need to look at ways to make our county assemblies autonomous financially. We need to, because that will increase their capability and capacity to manage their own affairs and to represent the people elected them effectively, to also oversee what the executive is implementing objectively, and also ensure they do not, they are not micromanaged from any quarter. Number two, I think it is through this committee, I think in whichever reforms they decide to focus on, the two sides of the current opposition and the government had proposed to entrench the World Development Fund alongside the CDF into the constitution. I think we need to do that. This is the time now. This is the moment to do that, so that we first strengthen devolution further, and finally we address the issues that will ensure going forward we will not go to an election and then the following week, the following day, we start seeing people in the street. If we can engage Kenyans and ensure that is addressed, I think we will be moving in the right direction as a country.
Yeah.
Yes.
Crispus, your opening remarks on that as we speak.
Well, what I will just say is that I would want to see the bipartisan talks focus on nation building, as opposed to an attempt by one coalition that lost in the election trying to push its manifesto being implemented by those who won. What I'm saying, the Azimio manifesto should not be part and parcel of this discussion. The discussion to be about Kenyans and Kenyans only. The other issue I would also want to request the Kenya Kwanza people is not to take a very extremist position. We need to tone down. The country is healing. Let us allow the people who are carrying out the discussion to be able to give us a very sober and open deliberation that we are also able to participate in one way or another, so that we can be able to build and carry this nation forward as a people. I would also request the president and the principal of Azimio, Raila Amolo Odinga, to just tone down and allow the nation to focus on this discussion without their voices being heard, so that we can be able to have a very objective discussion being carried out by the leaders of that discussion. Yes.
Nyamongo, let me take you through a page here. On page 6 of the Star, Ruto team sends mixed signals as bipartisan dialogues resumes. Now, they say that the president's men are asking him to abandon the talks with Azimio and focus on nation building. On the other hand, high cost of living will top agenda at the Bomas. That's according to former CS Eugene Wamalwa. Where are we?
Yeah. Now, you first begin by differentiating discussion or dialogue or talks from mediation and reconciliation. When we have the bipartisan at Bomas, we are expecting discussion or a dialogue. This is a conversation between two people or groups. So if we had a neutral party there, like now Obasanjo, it will not be discussion, it will be mediation. Mediation is when you have a neutral party to aid in solving disputes of two disputants by facilitating the conversation. So that the two groups will come up with their own recommendation.
Is there a dispute?
And there is a dispute because one group says that they won an election and they have a plan for Kenya, and they have this plan and are ready, apprehending and responding with speed and sensitivity to bring forth what they have for the people. On the other hand, the other group is saying you never won fairly.
Yes. And
even though then you are in power, these are the issues. We have the living standards. So there is a dispute between Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza. Let us be honest about it. Now, whatever is being done at the Bomas is a step which has a quality that outshines the usual, because it is a show of the love of our country and a willingness to sacrifice for it.
Yeah.
Because they want equality for us to be united as one, and this is true that it is true that we, the people of Kenya, have the right or power to make our decisions and give orders through such platforms.
Yes.
And this has come as a judicial authority. When you look at Article 159, it stipulates judicial authority. Now, to be in a particular sub-article 2, in exercising judicial authority, the courts and the tribunals shall be guided by the following principles. C, alternative dispute resolution, including reconciliation, mediation, arbitration, and the traditional dispute resolution mechanisms shall be promoted subject to clause 3. Full stop. So it means reconciliation is part of our system. Mediation is part of our system. Arbitration is part of our system. No one must deny people to sit down. No one must reject people to sit down and have their mind recollected for the purposes of unifying this nation. It may look disadvantageous to one side, but it's not, because at long last, when you have the two groups seated, then they will come up with their own recommendation. The final settlement or agreement will be as a result of their contribution. No one is there.
And Crispus would ask you, what are they mediating over? What are they arbitrating over? What's the reconciliation all about? I mean, that's the question, because both sides are claiming victory over the last general election. That is the whole issue here, gentlemen, over election. And when you listen to what Eugene Wamalwa said yesterday, if I could just paraphrase, he said that these positions, as Azimio, DG, you'd also probably help me here, that Azimio is not looking for Nusumkati in this government. They have said that. But they need certain position to be spread across the country. I don't know how this is going to happen, and yet the government is fully formed and it's moving on. Crispus, before I come to you, Gigi, come kindly. Yes.
And that's what I said. There should be no attempt of Azimio trying to impose its position on Kenya Kwanza through this dialogue. Azimio must accept that they lost the election, and Kenya Kwanza are the leaders of this government right now. Once they agree that, then we have no issue about mediating about anything. Because if the mediation that should be mediated, if there was a disputed election, which was determined by the Supreme Court, we don't have any disputed election. So if there is any issue that they need to discuss, it should be cost of living. and probably the issue of IEBC and commissioners' determination on how they come into office. Those are some of the issues I can see maybe they disagree. But you see, cost of living, Kenya Kwanza has a plan. So they should be allowed to deliver on their plan. They cannot be imposed to do, for example, subsidy of buying cheap food, as opposed to what they are doing right now, subsidizing production, which now they are looking forward to their first harvest or from the subsidy they give in terms of fertilizer. So Azimio cannot attempt in one way or another to impose their plan on Kenya Kwanza. So in terms of mediation, I don't see. The only thing I would look forward to is nation building. We need to heal. We need to see communities working together.
What if the talks at the Bomas of Kenya is part of the healing?
That should come out clearly.
I'm just asking. What if
that should come out clearly?
Yeah.
There are people who are hurt in this country. We have seen clashes all over happening right now. We need to heal as a country.
And there are some people who are also depending on that Bomas bipartisan for them to heal. There are people are waiting for them. Okay, what will come out of this?
But you see, if they were promised that probably some of them will join government, that is wrong.
Okay,
the healing will not come by getting a quarter of the bread, not half.
I can't authenticate that.
When it comes to the Bomas,
yes,
I have a different opinion from engineer, and he represents the thinking of so many, not so many actually, very few politicians in this country, and that is. I don't think the question of you won unfairly, you did this as far as elections is concerned is the issue of discussion here. What I know, and everyone, almost every Kenyan agrees, we have had since 1992, this country every 5 years has had an issue in any part of this country arising from elections. We have had challenges but the beauty of it is every election we do our own internal audit and we continue improving on our electoral systems. So when a section of this country says, let's audit IEBC, it is not to determine if the president won or he did not win, if a governor won or he or she did not win. That is not the point. The point is we use whatever we will get out of this audit to strengthen electoral process and system in this country going forward. Because it is very costly, Victor. It is very hard for anybody, any existing business here in this country to expand the way they should. Because they don't know after the next election cycle what will happen. And that is the only way out to have a national cohesive country where people will go out there, vote with a lot of trust. Their vote will count. Now, the second thing is about the engineer keeps on referring to nation building, and then he confuses himself that we have a plan to implement, so there is nothing to discuss. Which plan are you going to implement and where when people are in the streets? It is the interest of every leader in this country that we need a peaceful environment for any government, whether county or national, to execute that mandate. And I believe in the wisdom of those who established the two committees in the Bomas, that is what they were looking for. Nation building you cannot achieve nation building when you have a section of country having some issues, are dissatisfied. They don't even appear like they are trusting the government in place. In fact, what is happening in Bomas is going to bring a lot of stability into this country. Now, in international view, and I can tell you as a developing country, it is very hard to just come up with a system that will observe every graduate in this country. That is not possible. We must combine internal investment with external investment so that we can have so many farms in this country who are going to observe the unemployed population in this country. How are you going to do that when I know I cannot invest my $1 billion into that particular country because I don't know, I have an unforeseeable outcome after the next election. We need to stabilize this country, and I believe that is the focus of the head of state. It is good, and I appreciate what Kenya Kwanza section of leadership are saying, that don't impose your issues. We won, we did this, it is good. They keep on reminding us, but that is not what we are after. Because I think the opposition has stated clearly they do not want a percentage of Nusu Mkaze, nobody. And we are saying let's improve on our systems of governance in this country. Yes.
Gentlemen, do you agree with me that there's some places in this country, some wards, which a by-election was supposed to be done has not happened yet because we don't have an active IEBC in place. So what legal battle are we looking at here? Because nobody's talking about them. I mean, a by-election was supposed to happen. We had the late member of parliament who died a few months ago. There's no by-election yet. The IEBC itself has not been constituted, and part of the talks is just to restructure the IEBC system. Nyamongo, what are some of the legal tussles are we looking at this particular point? Can anybody move to court?
Yeah, of course, under Article 22, enforcement of the Bill of Rights, every person has the right to institute court proceedings, claiming that a right or a fundamental freedom in the Bill of Rights has been denied, infringed, or is threatened. Or every person has the right to institute court proceedings, claiming that this constitution has been contravened or is threatened with contravention. So when you see the gap, we need to have by-elections, and they are not happening because we do not have a proper and independent body, IEBC. Then it means there is a lacuna. Then a person ought to move to the High Court to seek guidance by the judiciary. Yeah.
I'm looking at a situation, gentlemen. Help me understand this. Did we see a situation where, if even in the constitution itself, where there is a vacuum in a constituency, in a situation like we are in right now, there is no IEBC in place, there's a constituency without any representation, and there is a political tussle that has actually stagnated the electoral process for that particular constituency to have their representative. Do you think we should have something like a caretaker kind of leader in a constituency in a scenario like this one, and how would it be? I'm just trying to think out loud. Crispus.
But why should we have this kind of situation in the first place? We already have a constitution.
It was never preempted in the constitution.
Yeah, we have already a constitution that is able to predict at the point where a commissioner will come, another one will exit. There's a process how they'll be recruited. It's just that right now the whole process has been scuttled because of certain
let me cut you short. In the case of the president, there's a provision there.
There is a provision for
in the case of a governor, the deputy governor can step in, etc., etc. What about a constituency?
So what we need to ask ourselves, in the case where there's an MP is not there, what the people are lacking is representation. And probably ability to oversight the national government through their own member of parliament, and probably their member of parliament contributing in terms of legislation. Those are the areas that they would lack. But are they really deprived in terms of government services that they're supposed to get from the national government? No.
What do you mean? I mean, there is.
The national government has its own services. It has all men and women.
The disbursement of bursaries happened a few months ago.
But CDF is not the function of an MP. The CDF committee runs that function. The MP is a patron. He's supposed to provide some oversight. So therefore, the CDF can still continue, even if there's no MP, as long as there's an oversight committee there to charge them. So the areas that are lacking is the representation, legislation, and probably the oversight the MP would do. The other national government services are still available to the people of that area, and the county government services are also available. So they are not as deprived as maybe when we don't have an MP, a governor or a president sitting. But I think my biggest problem with this whole issues about every time having a contested election is that it has happened for the last 5 times in the last 20, 30 years. But we've done an audit of ourselves and come up with new proposals. But the proposal never seemed to cure The whole challenge is that we have an election. So is it the processes that are a problem, or is the people that are in that process that are the problem? So we need to ask ourselves, because we have audited ourselves many times, 2007, 2013, 2017, 2022, now we are still auditing ourselves. When will it stop as a country? When will we move on? 1997, we had IGPP, the Interparliamentary Group. We have always audited ourselves. We cannot be a country that audits and audits all the time. We need to be a country that is able to implement our proposals, see them grow and become something. Then we can come and evaluate them.
Yeah. The same way you are saying that the devolution itself is a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
Then what's the problem? Where is the problem of auditing ourselves in terms of matters to the election?
The electoral process that we went through.
Why should it have an audit with the finality? If the devolution itself you can give it
the
space.
Electoral process that we went through in 2022, I think it has been validated not only by the Supreme Court, but even the international community. It was transparent. So let's now carry that one forward and see that it gives us another election.
Okay. DJ, what do you make of that? The issue of international community raised a lot of heat about over the devolution conference last week. Let's not go there.
It is the continuing audit is a very important thing, because we are living in a world that is changing more often. And in those changes, you will find new technologies being improvised. Doing an audit is very important for actually, even IEBC does this. Others are hired to assist in doing the same. And in every of those audits, they come up with a proposal on how to make it better. Because in the course of that election, you learn, you come across one or two challenges here and there. Now, I think it is very important, very, very, very critical. And like what my colleague is saying, I also want to inform engineer. It is a requirement. In the absence of a member of parliament, CDF doesn't function. And it is very important, very critical. So in this case, I think it is good we argue on a point of knowing and the correct position. So immediately, in fact, you can find out from that constituency without a member of parliament. Even the committee stopped meeting, and they are waiting until a new member of parliament is elected and sworn in. That is the time they start their functions. Allow me, now that we are discussing this issue of representation, that I also passed yesterday, the day before yesterday, a ward in Machakos lost a member of county assembly. Actually, specifically Mombone North.
Sorry for that.
And it is so painful, because that was one of the reliable leaders we had. Very, very mature, a very good leader. So I pass also my condolences to the people of Mombone North. Now, finally, I think when we are talking of the issues of representation, oversight, and legislation, those are very critical. They are basic human rights, if I can say so, as far as issues of leadership are concerned. It is very important that we look away, because the question was, in the absence of this elected leader, now what happens? Especially when we have this stalemate. I think in a way, we might need to put the way we are put at the issue of at the president level or at governor's level, in a way that the functions of this particular leader, in the case he or she is not there in the office continues to function under patronage for certain period, not forever, because people can create some scenarios so that they can act forever. I think it should not go for a certain period when Kenyans will decide. So in this case, Victor, I think it is very important we relook at that clause of our legislation, so that we can have continuity in the event these leaders are not there, but for a certain period of time.
All right, the 10-member technical committee was formed last week so that they can iron out some of the thorny issues as pertaining this bipartisan talk that is going to start in the next in the next 1 hour, because it's supposed to start at 10. So we'll be taking a look at that shortly, but right about now, let's take a break and we'll be coming to the final end as they give their final remarks to this discussion. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more.
Ingo FM fans in Kakamega, are you ready? Ingo FM and Y254 have organized a Meet the Fans tour on 25th and 26th August 2023. On Friday, 25th August, join us at Butere Boys High School, where the Baraza Foundation has organized sports activities including a football match pitting Kakamega Homeboys versus Butere combined. In the evening, join us as we witness the crowning of Mr. and Miss Butere live from Charlie 037 Resort. These events will be covered by Y254 and Ingo FM. On Saturday, 26th August, our team shall visit Noah Yale Children's Home, where we shall donate dignity packs. And the climax of our Kakamega tour will be the launch of Ingo FM Mashabi Club at Bondeni Primary School. Don't miss out. All are welcome.
Vijana chapakazi wenye nguvu za ziada.
My youth, uko na talent ya kusing, spoken word, kucompose jingles ama any other unexploited artistic talent. Gava through Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy na KBC sasa wamekama up na project ya kupromote usanii called Studio Mashinani. Hizi ni studios ziko grassroots and they are fitted with high quality state-of-the-art equipment where you can produce quality audio and video music content for free. What's more, wanaoffer mentorship na talanta yako itakuwa promoted on KBC Channel 1 TV, Y254 na radio stations za KBC. Tembelea Studio Mashinani huko Comarox, Langata, Sauti House Mombasa, Kirwara huko Gatanga, Kitui next to Manyanyoni Chiefs Camp na Kisumu City wako hapo KBC station. Usilalie talent. This is your chance to commercialize and popularize your talent through Studio Mashinani.
All right, welcome back. Okay, right about now, let's head straight to the Kenya Methodist University. That is Kemu Towers Auditorium, where the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, is at this particular point attending a trainers program with the launching of the Boda Trainers Riders Training Program that is dubbed Boda Yangu, Ofisi Yangu. That is what is going on. Let's take a listen at what the Deputy President is talking about.
Boda circles and self-help groups have saved and invested in real estate and other sectors. The Nyandarua Boda Association has worked hard and invested in a petrol station and some property. Surely this is a way to go. Esteemed office managers and guests, in conclusion, I wish to commend the Boda subsector across the country for the contribution to the economy. In our plan, we have a shoe that fits your foot. Do not be left behind in affordable housing and the Hustler Fund. For those who are farmers, I urge you to register to benefit from Phase 2 of subsidized fertilizer program as we enhance food security and cut down the cost of living. Asanteni sana. Mimi nikiongeza tu kidogo ni mshukuru sana Mama County Mami Mwega kwa hii mpango na hii mpangilio. Hao vijana wa bodaboda tumewatumia vibaya. Sisi tukiwemo. Tunatafuta tu wakati ya kampeni. Kampeni ikiisha tunawatafuta in the next campaign. Kwa hivyo Mama County kupua na hii mpangilio kama hakuna siasa inaendelea, it means you are genuine about the welfare of our bodaboda riders. And this is the way to go. Susikue sisi ni watu tu ya kutumia hao vijana wetu wakati ya campaign. Wanakuja wanatengeneza msafara wako, wanarebesha, ikiisha mpaka next election. So I really want to thank our women for Nyandarua. This is true and genuine leadership to empower the people who elected you and the people who supported you, and giving back to this group of young people. And by empowering them through training, you are creating a livelihood for them beyond the elections. Na nyinyi vijana pia, hata nyinyi pia mjitafutie heshima. Kwa sababu siku ya campaign mnaletewa reflector by anybody mnavaa. Mnapewa yenu, mnawacha. Mpinzani wake akija na reflector nyingine mnavaa, mnavizinikisha yeye. Na hiyo ni mtu ya kuanguka. Na mnajua kuna pahali anaenda. Pia lazima nyinyi mjitafutie heshima. Hapana vaa reflector ya kila mtu, hata mwizi. Hata yule hakuna kitu anajua. You make a decision wakati ya campaign, muangalie kwa sababu mko na network, mvae reflector yule peke yake atashinda. Kwa sababu ukivaa reflector ile mtu anaanguka, si mnaanguka pamoja. Sababu sasa mnakaanga, wengine wanakuwa na reflector karibu 4 kwa mwili. Wewe ukipita wanatoa hii, wanavaa mwingine. So nyinyi pia tunataka pia mjiheshimu. Sasa mnaitwa managers. You must be managers and you must live to that name. Si ndio? Ya pili, tafadhali, Presiding Bishop amesema tunangangana na hii maneno ya pombe. It cannot be utaendesha pikipiki ukiwa mlevi. Utaanguka na utakufa. Na utawacha bibi na watoto. Utavunjika mguu, utatuita harambe ya kuweka chuma. That is the truth. You cannot drink and ride. It cannot happen. So we are working very hard kutoa hizi pombe baya kwa market. Unfortunately ile pombe yote baya ilitumwa hapa Mount Kenya. Yote. Ile takataka yote kasia ile ya kuua watu ilisukumwa hapa kwa Mlima Kenya. Na ndio tunangangana nayo, tunapigana, and we are succeeding. And I want to thank the leaders. I want to thank officers of the National Government Administration. I want to thank our chiefs and assistant chiefs. We are 70% successful, is still remaining 30%. But there are some governors in this region who are tusaidi. Na niliwaambia juzi tukiwa pale Sagana State Lodge na President Ruto. If they don't help us in this fight against alcoholism and drug abuse, which is likely to wipe an entire generation, at the right time, I'll call them out by name. Mimi hakuna governor yote nitaunga mkono uchaguzi wa 2027 ambaye hajasaidiana na sisi kupigana na bombe. Sitakubali. Because hii watoto wakiisha, where is the future of our region? We are almost losing an entire generation. And I think it was by design. Nafikiri kuna watu walikuwa wamepanga kumaliza population ya Mount Kenya kwa kuleta ile pombe baya na kuuza hapo bila kuuliza mtu ndio watoto wetu wote waishi. Vijana wetu walikuwa wanakunywa pombe, wanalala kwa mtaro. Wengine wameoa juzi, bibi yako kwa kitanda, kijana analala chini ya kitanda. Sasa si jamii ingeisha? Ndio mimi na hivi na wao viongozi tukaamua pana na rais wetu. So I want to challenge our governors in this region ya kwanza ya Mount Kenya, in the 11 counties. Those who are not willing to help us in this fight against drug abuse and alcoholism should not expect support from some of us. Na mimi hakuna microphone nitachukua kutetea mtu achaguliwe tena kama hutatusaidia kwa hii vita. Because hata sisi wacha tujipende, mimi Rigathi Gachagua na mkubwa wangu William Ruto, sisi tuko na ushawishi mkubwa katika Mount Kenya. Tukijipenda from a fairly selfish perspective, President Bishop, mimi na William Ruto hivi vijana wakiisha tutachaguliwa na nani? From a selfish perspective, wacha sasa kusaidia jamii, mimi mwenyewe kujitetea. Supporters yetu ni vijana. The youth are our supporters. Sasa wakiisha kwa hii bombe tutachaguliwa na nani? Hao wazazi wetu watasaidiwa na nani? Hii maneno tunajaribu kurekebisha ya ukulima, nani atafanya kazi? Hii programu ya boda boda itafanywa na nani? That fight.
And that is Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua speaking at the Nyandarua County, that is NGAF office here in Nairobi, at a function dubbed Boda Boda Yangu office Yangu. That is happening just to sensitize the Boda Boda riders in terms of their safety and the transport management as a whole from Nyandarua County. Thank you so much. We'll be bringing you more of that, of course, in our subsequent bulletins. Okay, right about now, let me just give you kindly 1 minute, gentlemen. Let's just wind up this debate as we move forward. Moving forward, DG, 20 seconds as a gentleman, starting now.
As leaders in this country and in our counties, let's put our country first. Let's do that which is right at all times. Let's try. It is difficult with all these temptations, but let's try our level best and do what is right. It is as simple as that. To the Mala MP in Machakos County has lost his mother. We are escorting her tomorrow to the burial site. I say Pole, and to the MP, to the MCA, Momboni North, who died on Sunday. Saturday afternoon. I passed my condolences to the family, to the people of Momboni Ward and Machakos County generally. Kavu was a great leader, and we are with them during this difficult time.
All right, thank you so much. Crispus Wathimba, as you come to that, congratulations. I'm told that you have a different title.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I'm now a member of the Nakuru City Management Team. So we have a board that is there under the Urban and Cities Act.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. We were competitively recruited. The governor nominated us, and we were vetted by the county assembly. And thank you for the process that is there in the constitution. We are now duly in office and looking forward to support the government of Nakuru County in terms of discharging the responsibility of managing the city of Nakuru.
Absolutely.
To be a future city and be able to be a great city for in terms of attracting investment, people to come and live there and be able to do their business there. Just also to add on what the Deputy President is speaking about, abuse, it's something under our responsibility to make sure that the city is able to be free of abuse of drugs and substances, and I look forward also to play my role in terms of fighting this scourge. But I also encourage parents. The abuse of drug does not start when somebody is an old person. It starts when they are young. So it's an issue of being an intentional parent. Look out of what the company your children is keeping. Look out at the things that your child is spending his or her money with, so that you know when this kind of bad behavior starts, you are able to arrest it when it's at a very tender age. So I just hope that everybody can play their role.
Thank you so much, and all the best in your new assignment. Okay, Naftali, please.
Yeah, my plea is for all Kenyans to control our impulses. Yeah, let us have that trait of resolutely controlling our own behaviors. And let us have that strong belief in the supernatural powers or power of God to control our destiny. Let us have faith in our institution, and let us have allegiance and loyalty to our constitution, because that constitution has given us the condition to be free. Through the constitution, we have that act or power to think and express ourselves without externally imposed restraints. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That is Naftali Nyamongo, who is political analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Crispus Wathimba, engineer, who has now a new title representing Nakuru County. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the best in your new endeavors. And of course, we have got Deputy Governor representing the great people of Machakos, Francis Mwangangi. Asante sana for coming to the show. Gentlemen, asante sana. And even you as a viewer, thank you for your valid company, and thank you so much for joining us. Right about now, we are heading straight to that function, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, which is now hosting the 8th International Civil Aviation Organization, that is ICAO, Africa and Indian Ocean Week here in Nairobi. Let's head straight to that particular function. My name is Victor Lo. Have a good morning. Bye-bye for now.
Are conducted with the utmost respect to our environment. Our commitment to these principles will determine the legacy we leave for the future generations. I extend my deepest gratitude to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, for the support of the government in making this event possible. I also thank all delegates, sponsors, organizing committee who have made it possible. In conclusion, I urge all of us to embrace the opportunity to forge new partnerships, share our knowledge, and collectively steer the course of aviation in Africa. Together, we can overcome the challenges, capitalize on our opportunities, and soar to even greater heights. Mr. President Salvatore, earlier on, as we had a chat, you mentioned that you will be leaving the country today in Kenya. But I can tell you, even before you leave, this is the only city in the world here. You will get to the national park and you will see all the four. You will see the lions, you will see the cheetahs as they hunt, you will see the rhinos, and rhinos which are breeding, it's not even 5 minutes, which are breeding just out there. So since it's your first time in the country and you'll be leaving today, may I take this opportunity, Mr. President, to ask you kindly, please just step aside when you leave this conference. Before you go to the airport, we will take you to the national park so that you can see the rich heritage that Kenya has and has to offer to the world. With those few remarks, it's my pleasure to invite Colonel Silas Odehemuku, President of AFC, to come forward and give his remarks. Karibu sana. Thank you.
Sorry. Principal Secretary is here present, and the chief guest, the President of ICAO Council, the Secretary General ICAO Council, all protocols observed. Good morning. I stand here to speak on behalf of AFCAC. AFCAC is an organ of the African Union responsible for civil aviation matters. We, first of all, want to appreciate the warm welcome and hospitality we have gotten from the government of Kenya and the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority and ICAO. I know this program, AFI Week, is geared towards supporting Africa. That starts way back in 2012, having been engineered in 2008, and it goes all the way to 2014 in Dakar. And there are 4 main programs, components of the program. We are proudly pursuing the remaining 2, the AFI plan and AFI plan, Aviation Security Facilitation Plan. So many things have been done so far. Good ones, achievements. A number of them are yet to be done and completed. And we are here convening to meet to only review what is remaining to be done, what needs to be realigned, because so many things have happened over time. We got around this technology which is evolving very fast. We got the environmental elements, SAF, blah, blah, blah. We got all of it. So we need to sit back and realign ourselves. They are the targets that we are meant to achieve. Abuja targets, Windhoek targets, are we still on track? And it's achievable. I know it's achievable, and we should get out of this room knowing that this is where we went wrong, this is where we can get it correct, and this is where we want to be in a given time T. As we dive into the discussions in the remaining 4 days, we should be able to proudly get out of this room having clearly defined our targets. I also want to take this opportunity to appreciate the stakeholders, people who have been supporting Africa in accomplishing this task of making sure that we grow this sector, aviation sector. We really appreciate your support. All of you, we really appreciate, and we encourage that you continue this journey with us. We believe it's going to be very successful and meaningful to all of us. Challenges are there, challenges are human, problems are human. We have decided at AFCAC to look at opportunities and maximize our little energy on the opportunities that are available in front of us. And we strongly believe we are going to be able to achieve this. So you are experts and gurus of this aviation. Mine was to simply appreciate your support and encourage each other to be focused and go into measurable programs that are time-bound. With that said, in my concluding remarks, I once again want to appreciate the government of Kenya, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, ICAO, for hosting us once again, as a way of doing inward looking. Thank you very much. Nawashukuru.
Thank you very much. Would like to recognize the presence of ICAO Council members in the House, as well as representative of states to ICAO. We have our two regional directors, WACAF and ISAF, present. We recognize your presence. It's now my pleasure to welcome the TSA administrator to address this AFI Week gathering.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here in Nairobi. It's my first time here, and it's the first time that a TSA administrator has ever been here. So I really appreciate the hospitality, and thank you. And I'm looking forward to sharing some brief remarks with you this morning, but to primarily recognize the incredible cooperation, the incredible work that's been going on for a good number of years. The progress is substantial. But just a little scene setting, if I could, about TSA, or the Transportation Security Administration. We are 22 years old, so a relatively new agency in the U.S. federal government. We are the appropriate authority for transportation and aviation security in the United States. We are agile, innovative, and dedicated to securing our transportation system while ensuring the freedom of movement of people and commerce. And this work has never been easy. Important work is never easy, but the most important thing is that we do not do it alone. Our partners found here, at home, with industry, and ICAO are vital to the global aviation security posture. Everyone here, whether on stage or off, is part of the system, responsible for making global civil aviation more secure. Working together, we will succeed. We work to strengthen each other because when one part of the system fails, the entire system is put at risk. Just look at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. I flew into NBO last evening, just after the Secretary General arrived, so we were within about 30 minutes of each other. And it's a good example of how collaboration between member states and industry can produce clear results. NBO is one of the newest last point of departure airports from the African continent to the United States. Becoming a last point of departure airport was the culmination of a decade's worth of work between TSA, the U.S. State Department, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, and the Kenya Airports Authority. It started as a mentorship program, and it became a multi-year partnership to improve NBO's aviation security baseline, eventually culminating in the achievement of last point of departure service to the United States. This was hard work on everyone's part. It was a road that began 14 years ago that started with a request to start direct service. The long-term mentorship program worked with the government of Kenya, Kenya Airways, and Delta Airlines to improve the aviation security posture at NBO, resulting in achieving the ultimate goal of securing LPD status. During the last decade, TSA provided the government of Kenya and aviation stakeholders training in the form of capacity development and support in the form of long-term mentorships to help further build their programs. During this time, the government of Kenya and Kenya Airways expressed their commitment to this partnership by ensuring TSA was granted access to the airport and airport facilities to conduct all necessary inspections and assessments. Additionally, the government of Kenya was extremely receptive to all recommendations made by the TSA, ensuring compliance with ICAO Annex 17, eventually attaining LPD status in October of 2018. TSA partnered with the U.S. State Department to provide funding for additional support to include assessments, training, and program development. TSA advised and advanced screening equipment that could be deployed at boarding gate 19, the boarding gate for flights to the United States. This increased the effectiveness of passenger screening and enhanced aviation security operations overall. NBO's Gate 19 is now one of the most technologically advanced gate screening checkpoints in the entire world. Partnerships like this, as one example of many, connect the world and strengthen the civil aviation system for the collective good. Due to the success of these efforts and Kenya's commitment to aviation security, the U.S. State Department continued to provide support. This additional funding for assistance in Kenya has been used to further AVSEC development and promote Kenya as an AVSEC leader within East Africa, exporting their expertise and further hardening aviation corridors in the region. Over the next few days, I encourage all of us to not only listen to the best practices and effectiveness that can be sustained, but ultimately to collaborate on enhancing the effectiveness of the global civil aviation system. Success in this mission is directly dependent on the cooperation between a myriad of partners. I believe it is people, partnerships, and technology that makes the difference. In aviation, we continue our strong partnerships with our critical stakeholders, airports, airlines, all domestic government agencies, foreign governments, the airline industry professionals, and of course, international organizations. We cannot accept the level of security effectiveness without the close cooperation and relationships that we have been able to establish across the transportation domain, both within the United States and around the world. We continue to work closely with our international partners to share best practices, collaborate on new technologies, and develop security countermeasures to harmonize mutual aviation security goals for the safety of all travelers. Ensuring a secure transportation system is a collaborative project on grand scale. It needs all of us. Our ability to partner with the global aviation community is based on the foundations of trust, experience, and collaboration. Ultimately, the global aviation community is trying to address very similar challenges, specifically mitigating the growing number of threats to civil aviation, encouraging industry to invest in screening solutions that address existing and long-term performance requirements, and encouraging non-traditional partners to leverage innovative approaches employed in other applications to overcome today's aviation screening challenges. Our collective understanding and appreciation of the challenges in aviation screening will result in the delivery of more effective and more efficient solutions. A concern since TSA's founding is insider threat. Detection, deterrence, and mitigation of insider threats has been a part of TSA's mission from the agency's very beginning. The Insider Threat Program is a top priority for me. This program leverages a whole-of-government approach and relies on engagement with private stakeholders to implement a complementary suite of risk-based mitigation strategies. We currently vet over 27.5 million credential holders, concurrent with updates across more than 30 different populations. This vetting includes checks against government terrorist watch lists that are continuously updated, fingerprint-based criminal history records checks for disqualifying criminal histories, and checks for lawful presence in the United States. We executed a multimedia insider threat awareness campaign, increasing workforce knowledge of potential risk indicators of an insider threat and reporting streams. As everyone here does, this is something we take very seriously. Our federal air marshals have partnered with TSA's International Capacity Development Operations to create and keep up to date presentations for insider risk workshops. These workshops train international partners at local police departments on insider risk concepts, attack paths, and countermeasures. Several nations on the continent have already participated in these, and this year they are being held or have been held in Egypt and South Africa. Our partnership with the ICAO Secretariat to develop a global insider risk capacity development curriculum is reflected in the insider risk workshop as well. Along with insider threat, a growing threat to the global transportation system is the threat of a cyber attack. Engaging with our industry partners early and often about cybersecurity is critical because the cyber threats we all face are significant. In the United States, we have begun to build cybersecurity protections and improve the resiliency of the aviation sector that is so critical to our national well-being. Within this space, we recently worked in the AFI region with the South African Civil Aviation Authority. TSA's cyber subject matter experts discussed our initiatives in the cyber realm there, and they followed up with the South African Civil Aviation cybersecurity team at the Cybersecurity Convention in Toulouse, France this summer. The private sector organizations that own and operate transportation infrastructure have been terrific partners, making significant and necessary investments in cybersecurity enhancements. The nature of the evolving threat and the size of the threat will outscale the government's ability to directly manage it across the private industry. Together, we need to determine how we effectively harness and apply cutting-edge technologies to defend our critical cyber assets. Our connection with Africa is rewarding and continues to grow. In the last 2 months, TSA has conducted 4 international workshops for the South Africa Civil Aviation Authority, in addition to workshops for Morocco and Egypt, focused on insider risk, security testing, and other ways to improve the security baseline. These events and programs help improve our transportation systems and make the global system more secure. I look forward to more opportunities where the TSA can support aviation security initiatives in Africa. I am proud of the partnerships we have developed here and hope to renew them and forge new ones. As our partnerships grow stronger, so does our security. We are working on one-stop security with several nations, establishing security comparability and improving not just security but overall customer experience and system efficiency. These last few years coming out of the pandemic have been challenging, but we have worked through them together. When we collectively work toward common goals with a unified purpose, we can achieve even greater results. I'm glad to be here to participate in the opening of this 8th ICAO AFI Aviation Week, and I wish all participants much success in your deliberations and look forward to achieving meaningful and actionable meeting outcomes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Even as we applaud the TSA administrator, allow me to recognize the presence of board members, Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, and the presence of our key sponsor, Managing Director, Kenya Airports Authority, as well as our other sponsors. At this juncture, allow me to welcome the President of ICAO Council to address the AFI Aviation Week, and in turn invite the Principal Secretary to make his key speech. Mr. President.
The Permanent Secretary of the State Department of the Minister of Roads and Transport, Mohamed Daga, Colonel Silas Udemuka, President of the African Civil Aviation Commission, Mr. Emile Rao, Director General of Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, and all African states Director General of Civil Aviation present, honorable representatives of the Kenyan administration and institutions, your ICAO Council members, and the Navigation Commission members, representatives of partner states, international and regional organizations, distinguished delegates, and ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to welcome you to this 8th consecutive AFI Week on the behalf of ICAO. I wish to express our special gratitude to the government of the Republic of Kenya for accepting to host this prestigious event and providing the excellent facilities to conduct our meetings in a very efficient and effective manner here in the very beautiful city of Nairobi. I promise that I will really visit. Together with the administrator of TSA, who is coming for the first time as well. I would like also to express my sincere appreciation on behalf of the ICAO community and the delegates present here for the warm welcome given to us since our arrival. I am pleased to see so many key representatives from states and international and regional organizations present at this meeting. This is a clear demonstration of the recognition of the importance of aviation to the sustainable development of nations. It also underscores your recognition of the need for all partners and the stakeholders to work closely together to build synergies in Africa. Moreover, it is an important acknowledgement that states are more prosperous when they are better connected, and that nothing can connect Africa as efficiently and reliably as air transport. While the industry is still emerging from COVID-19 pandemic, its deepest crisis ever, air transport is recovering, and indeed the global air traffic is expected to reach 2019 levels by end of the year. The prospects for Africa in this respect remarkable. Along with assuring the continuous safety and security of operations, assuring sustainability, resilience, and inclusivity of this recovery are now ICAO's top priorities. And that's why we are gathering here today. The 2023 AFI Aviation Week events will feature the two-day aviation symposium to be held just after the opening ceremony, the meetings of the steering committees of the ICAO Comprehensive Regional Implementation Plan for Aviation Safety in Africa, the AFI Plan, and the Comprehensive Regional Implementation Plan for Aviation Security in Africa, the AFI-SECFAL Plan, and some important progress reports from key partners and stakeholders illustrating their collaborative support to ICAO strategic objectives. As you are aware, the agendas of these important annual meetings are rich and require careful attention to ensure the emergence of practical and implementable outcomes for the improvement of safety, security, and air navigation systems, as well as the encouragement of the sustainable development of the aviation industry in the region. The symposium will discuss several important topics, such as the current ongoing transformation of ICAO, key updates on the implementation of the global plans, and the other major global and regional initiatives addressing all ICAO strategic objectives. Discussions will also encompass shared regional priorities, such as the Single African Air Transport Market, the SAT, current environmental challenges and initiatives, funding for the aviation industry, capacity building, and gender equality. The two steering committees, the AFI Plan and the AFI-SECFAL Plan, will review the recommendations of the various partners and the regional groups, which play such an important role in helping ICAO support continuous progress on aviation safety and security in Africa. In this regard, I wish to express our deep gratitude to the partners for their important updates and the tremendous contributions, and express my special recognition as well to the AFI Plan's donors. Allow me also to recognize the valuable support that has been provided to other ICAO implementation support programs in the AFI region, such as the Flight Procedures Program, COSCAP, and CAPSCA. My gratitude goes equally to African states including Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Congo, Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Gabon, Ghana, Kenya, of course, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Senegal, Seychelles, South Africa, Tanzania, Togo, Uganda, and Zambia, who are providing great support to the plans. The success of those plans is not just on the funding, but also with the support of experts, including by releasing the experts to provide the requested implementation support to the beneficiary states at no expense. I would also like to acknowledge certain states that are leading by example. In addition to Cote d'Ivoire and Ethiopia, who received Council President certificate at the 41st Assembly, I would like to congratulate Burundi, Cabo Verde, Djibouti, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Tanzania, and Togo for the outcomes they have achieved under the ICAO's Universal Safety Oversight and the Universal Security Auditing programs. Across the continent, these programs have revealed that effective implementation of the audited safety standards is rising from 42% in 2014 to 57% by 2022. And in the area of security, from 53% in 2015 to 64% by 2022. These figures affirm the ability of the African air transport industry to safely and securely regain its status as the fastest growing air transport market in the world. I want to stress that these achievements should not bring us to be complacent. We must continue to progress. There are many states, unfortunately, that are below the global level. There are some states that are very, very high level. And that's the example that I want to mention so that will be followed by others. The implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area should, according to the African Development Bank, increase intra-African trade by 15% and result in a net gain of $2.8 billion in real income for Africans. In this context, and in the context of the single African transport market, appropriate responses by states to the connectivity issue must be priority number one. Significant progress has been achieved towards implementing the single African air transport market. However, Africa's contribution to the global traffic remains limited. To increase its part, Africa should leverage on key enablers like liberalization, digitalization, innovation, and ensure seamless and reliable air navigation through the effective implementation of aviation system block upgrade, so-called ASBU, and adequate aerodrome infrastructure. This morning, myself and the Secretary General had an important meeting with the President of the Republic of Kenya. And we acknowledge the progress done by Kenya and by many African states on the implementation of the single African transport market. More progress must be done. This will give a great opportunity to African states to take benefit from air transport for the growing up of social and economic status. So in this sense, I wish to encourage to continue to progress. I promise the President of the Republic to come as soon as there will be some concrete event that will show progress, but I have understood that there is already great progress amongst the 19 states that have signed the full implementation approach. So I wish really to encourage you. This is an enabler for development of the continent. You will face some challenges to implement it, but this should be the priority number one. The AFI region should fully optimize its approach to the support provided by ICAO both at the global and the regional levels. In this respect, I would like to emphasize that through its transformational objective, ICAO is undertaking several initiatives to enhance capacity building to better fulfill the needs of all stakeholders and the member states. This reflects ICAO's full commitment to support for the AFI region in achieving its goals and targets, establishing its various plans, programs, and roadmaps. In this regard, it is our strong determination to reinforce the No Country Left Behind initiative with permanent and long-lasting programs that would provide better assistance to Africa. And in this regard, I wish to underline the commitment, in particular of the Secretary General of ICAO, in reorganizing the sector so that better assistance could be provided. But during these days, we will have the opportunity to learn more. Success on these priorities here in Africa requires harnessing synergies and strengthening collaboration between the key players. And I strongly recommend for you to realize the necessary actions and decisions here this week to solidify and enhance your networks and planning. Before concluding this important gathering, I would be remiss not to mention ICAO's engagement on aviation decarbonization. As you know, last Assembly, ICAO member states, so you, adopted an historic decision to decarbonize air transport by 2050. This decision is also referred to as the adoption of the long-term aspirational goal. Aviation decarbonization will be reached through the implementation of the so-called basket of measures: technology, more efficient navigation routes, sustainable aviation fuels or SAFs, including low-carbon aviation fuels, and presumably market-based measures. We know that SAFs and low-carbon aviation fuels will play the main role in the short, medium term. Between 55 and 60% of CO2 emissions reduction by 2050 will be reached through SAFs and the low-carbon aviation fuels. Consequently, in the short-term objective is to deploy the use of sustainable aviation fuels, making it both affordable and accessible. ICAO is working very hard with fuel producers, institutional and private investors to make this happen, particularly by fostering international partnerships and cooperation with the energy and the financial sectors to accelerate much-needed investment in this area. Investments require clear regulatory framework in order to provide certainty to investors. For this reason, ICAO has called a high-level conference on civil aviation alternative fuels, the CAF3, late November in Dubai, just ahead COP28, with the objective to adopt a climate change framework that would provide states, aviation stakeholders, fuel producers, and investors with clear perspectives. The conference's outcome will be pivotal to a global framework for aviation fuels, adding to the reliability and the predictability of investments in SAF projects. I wish to stress one point that I had the pleasure to discuss this morning with the President of the Republic. That is the concern for investors due to the risk factor that implies high level of interest rates. This is definitely true, is recognized, was denounced during COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. But this should not, in my view, let us to refrain, to be ambitious in CAF 3. We need to be ambitious, and African states should have a high interest in ambitious goal, because the potential for Africa is huge in this sector. So we perfectly understand that there is the risk factor that can penalize the investments, but it's also true that we have to encourage investors to go in that direction. I wish also to mention that in order to help countries to build local capacities and foster international contacts to optimize their sustainable aviation fuel potential, we are working with our program called ACT-SAF. It's an assistance and the capacity building initiative that is already engaging several states and is providing already excellent contribution. As I discussed this morning with the President of the Republic, SAF production projects in Africa are very limited. However, as I was saying, I want to stress that Africa has a great opportunity in this area. The huge feedstock availability in this continent is of interest for investors. ICAO will work in order to facilitate partnerships and cooperation initiatives with individual states, public and private investors, and the fuel producers to unlock the opportunities offered to Africa. Against this background, I urge all of you to be engaged through ICAO on SAF deployment, participating actively in the pre-CAF meeting that will be held in hybrid format on 25th and 26th September, and the CAF 3 that will be held, as mentioned, in Dubai from 20 to 24th November. I wish also to anticipate that ICAO Secretariat is working on a project still under discussion, so I cannot anticipate details. Secretary General, please forgive me if I spoil something on this project, but it's appropriate, I believe, to mention that ICAO on the subject is not just issuing recommendations, promoting initiatives, but is committed to facilitate mechanism of investments and partnerships. And this is something totally true for ICAO. ICAO has never been dealing with fuel producers, with private investors, but we understand that is a key step to be addressed in order to progress towards decarbonization. So ICAO is not just recommending. ICAO is on the front line proposing and establishing a mechanism that will be presumably presented in the pre-CAF meeting in September, so that you will understand that there will be a mechanism that will facilitate these partnerships, and ICAO will support member states to do so. Finally, I would also like to remind you that the significance of the ICAO upcoming Air Navigation World 2023, taking place in Montreal next week under the theme Shaping the Skies for Tomorrow, and in Singapore from 23rd to 27 October 2023 under the theme ATM Procedures for Today, as well as the 18th Symposium on the ICAO Traveler Identification Program and the Joint International Criminal Police Organization Biometrics Forum, which is scheduled from 12 to 14 September 2023 in Montreal. I look forward to the active participation of aviation states, providing a strong voice at the global table, helping ICAO to underscore through well-attended in-person global events that the aviation network is bringing the world and the people together. In closing, I wish to express my sincere gratitude to the partnership and support of African states and aviation stakeholders to ICAO. And to thank all of you for your steadfast commitments to the harmonized and sustainable development of international civil aviation on this continent. I am confident that this commitment, along with your collective capacity and the synergy of experts from states, partners, and the stakeholders, will result in a fruitful, timely, and successful deliberations. In this regard, I would like to assure you of the ability of the Secretariat staff to assure the smooth conduct of these meetings. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore Sciatano, the President of the ICAO Council, Mr. Salazar Juan Carlos Gomez, the ICAO Secretary General, Ms. Amani Abu Zaid, the African Union Commissioner of Infrastructure, Energy and ICT, Colonel Silas Udahemuka, the President of the African Civil Aviation Commission, Ms. Ademfuke Adeyemi, the Secretary General of the African Civil Aviation Commission, Ms. Lucy Mbugwa, the new Regional Director of the ICAO Eastern and Southern Africa region. Please stand and wave. She is the newly appointed our Regional Director for this particular region. Mr. Prosper Zhu Minto, the Regional Director of the ICAO Western and Central African region. My Chairman, Mr. Brown Ondego, who was here earlier, who is the Board Chairman of the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. And at this time, I would wish the board members or the board directors of the KCA to please stand up. Including myself, I'm also a director and I sit in that board. Mr. Emil Rao, Captain, the Director General of the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. Please stand so that we can see you. Ms. Charity Musila, the representative of the Republic of Kenya for ICAO. Joined by the HIP is the Kenya Airports Authority of Kenya. I would want to the chairman, Mr. Caleb Kositani, to please stand up. Chairman of Kenya Airports Authority. Very good. And also the board members, if they're here, of the Kenya Airports Authority with us today. And not to sit Mr. Alex Gitari, the Managing Director of Kenya Airports Authority. Distinguished guests, all protocols observed, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Before I start my speech, I would first want really to convey the sincere apologies of the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Roads and Transport. He is on an official assignment. He was really looking forward to this particular event, but he was not able to attend. Consequently, also, I would like to convey the deepest apologies of the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, who was also supposed to be the chief guest. So these are big shoes. I am supposed to commission and open this particular week and workshop, but he was unable to join us. It is my great pleasure to welcome everybody here. I can scan the room and see almost the entire world represented here, to this great nation of Kenya and the great city under the sun, that is the Nairobi city. As a country, we are really privileged in the next 3 weeks, starting with this week, to host really events of global, significance, importance. This week we start with the AFI week, which will really chart the way forward on how Africa and Indian Ocean States and the world in general wants to really address the issue of safety and security in the aviation industry. But in the next 2 weeks, this particular country will co-host together the African Union Commission, the Africa Climate Summit, and also the Africa Climate Week from the 4th to the 8th of September, which is another global event related to issues of climate change and where Africa really wants to position itself. Kenya has a rich history of collaboration with ICAO, and the very fact that when ICAO sought our support to host this event, albeit at short notice, we graciously accepted, speaks volumes on the significance of the mutually beneficial relationship existing between our two entities. You will recall the DG, we were having a discussion on this sometime in May, and we are known as a country to really jump on opportunities when they come. And immediately we agreed with the DG through the Cabinet Secretary that yes, we will be glad to host this particular event. And most importantly, we are hosting both the President of the ICAO Council and the Secretary General in our midst today. It is a clear indicator of ICAO's unwavering support for the Africa aviation ecosystem and a stamp of approval for this particular event. We are really honored by your presence, Your Excellency. In fulfillment of our obligations as an ICAO member state, Kenya has continued to pursue the shared goal of ensuring safe, secure, efficient, and environmentally sustainable global air transport system. To this end, Kenya, through a robust and an enabling national legislation framework, continuously adopts and implements ICAO standards and recommended practices with the view of ensuring a safe and secure aviation oversight system and provision of an effective, efficient, and regular air transport network. We recognize air transport as the key enabler to the revival of the global economies. Through our National Air Transport Facilitation Committee and in collaboration with Boda Control Management Unit, Kenya is working to safely restore international connectivity and towards contactless travel as per the ICAO requirements. We now have in place the prerequisite infrastructure and capabilities to fully participate in ICAO's public key directory, the Advanced Passenger Information and the Passenger Name Record, otherwise acronymed as API and PNR. This will see Kenya join the global community in making the passenger journey seamless. On matters sustainability of the aviation industry, we laud the 41st ICAO Assembly for adopting a long-term global aspirational goal for international aviation of net zero carbon emission by 2050 in support of the UNFCCC Paris Agreement's temperature goal. Kenya is currently implementing the ICAO Council-approved sustainability criteria for sustainable aviation fuels, or as what the President mentions as SAF, together with the associated compliance assessment guidance. We have taken a keen interest in environmental matters, and we will continue collaborating and working together with ICAO towards achievement of 2050 through capacity building, the provision of an enabling environment in development and deployment of SAF. Kenya also continues to collaborate with ICAO in many spheres, specifically through secondment of technical experts to the Secretariat, technical panels, provision of short-term experts, training, voluntary contributions that I will speak to, and payment of its share to the ICAO budget. To coordinate the collaboration and Kenya's contribution to the work of ICAO, we have established permanent representation at the ICAO headquarters, and we're exploring modalities of actualizing our objective of providing a state-of-the-art facility of the ICAO Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Office, which is in line with the pledge we made during the 40th ICAO Assembly held in the year 2019. At the regional level, Kenya government continues to promote the concept of sharing of resources and has recently constructed one of its kind in this region, a regional center for aviation medicine for use by the Civil Aviation Safety and Security Oversight Agency. That is our regional safety oversight organization. I therefore wish to assure ICAO of our support on implementation, its strategic objectives, and more importantly, confirm that Kenya is committed to fulfilling its responsibilities as an ICAO contracting state. Now, on behalf of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, he has instructed me today to make the following two policy pronouncements and commitment. That one, Kenya proposes to construct the ICAO Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Office Block here at the United Nations office in Nairobi, in Gigiri, at an estimated cost of about 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. This is envisioned to be constructed in the next 3 years, starting from this year, 2023, towards to 2026. And my ministry, through the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Kipchumba Onesimus Murkomen, the Cabinet Secretary of Roads and Transport, has been tasked, together with the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, through our implementing agency, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, and through the Office of the Auditor, Office of the Attorney General, to implement and coordinate this policy directive. Second, is that Kenya commits to a voluntary contribution of 200,000 United States dollars to the Aviation Security and Facilitation Program. This will enable ICAO to support the implementation of enhanced aviation security and measures in Africa. And again, my ministry, through the agency Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, has been directed to ensure that this is achieved starting from the next financial year, that is 2024. Delegates and distinguished members present here today, Kenya is replete with breathtaking sceneries and acclaimed excellent flora and fauna that myself I really adore. Please take time to explore. We're just about to start the wildebeest migration. Don't be in a hurry to leave. The weather is also extremely fantastic, so I'll urge, after this week, you loosen the ties and ensure that you find yourself anywhere, whether it's the coastal part of the country or, the extraordinarily beautiful game parks that we have in this country. With these remarks, I wish hereby to officially open the 8th Africa and Indian Ocean Aviation Week of this year, 2023. Welcome.
Thank you, PS. Just housekeeping. As we conclude, we'd like to invite the guests to a photo session just near the reception of the hotel, and the photo session will involve the PS, the President of the ICAO Council, the Secretary General, the Regional Directors, the Director Air Navigation Bureau, Technical Operation Bureau, ATB, TSA Administrator, Assistant TSA Administrators, Kenya Civil Aviation Authority Board Chair and members, KCA Director General, the Kenya Airports Authority Chair and Managing Director. My colleagues at the entrance will usher the chief guests out to a photo session as we take a break. Thank you.
Thank you.